Guys, today modern AI is quite advanced, except two problems. It is censored and it takes your information. Well, it's hard to find a tech company that don't, but let me introduce you to one. Shout out to my sponsor, Venice AI, which allows you to protect your information and avoid censorship. Now ask yourself, why should a team of programmers at these leading AI apps be the ones to decide what is okay for you to ask and think? Also, would you be comfortable if the presidential administration could govern what AI tells you? Man, I know I wouldn't. But also, while you think about that, did you know that? Let me tell you this, it's gonna be crazy, but ChatGPT has a former director of the NSA sitting on their board right now, guys. And shout out to that man, Edward Snowden. He called this a willful, calculated betrayal of the rights of every person on Earth. And we all know how Alexa is. Alexa listens to us and recommends products based on our conversations. I mean, talk about a violation of privacy. But guys, these are just a few reasons I decided to team up with Venice AI and get you a better options or solutions to your AI needs. Now, guys, you can go ahead and check these guys out with my promo code. So shout out to Venice AI. Now, if you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or government, you can get 20% off a pro plan using my link, Venice AI SET, and use the code SET. Man, so shout out, guys. So make sure you guys use the code. Put it one more time for you guys right there. Once again, guys, if you guys want to go ahead and have unleashed AI, uncensored AI, go ahead and tap in with my guys at Venice AI, guys. Hey, this is SET and appreciate the support. And shout out to the sponsor.
Yo, and we are live, guys. Yo, this is SET with SET Media, and I'm back with another one for you. All right, guys, we're going to do another, media recap and then a great media analysis, of course, from the left, the right, and then we're going to get geopolitical with it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and double tap that screen. Appreciate the support. Let's get right into it.
Well, Mr. President, what an honor to be here in the White House with you, second time around. And I think when people look at the first 6 months of this administration, you have had more success, I think, than many presidents in history throughout the term of their entire term in office. A lot of people look at what you've done, though, and they say, had you not had 4 years in between, maybe all this success would not be possible. Do you agree with that? As devastating as the 2020 loss was, as bad for the country as the last 4 years were, do you think you'd be as successful as you have been without the 4 years in between?
Well, experience is very important in life. I think talent is more important than experience, but if you can have them both somehow, it's a very good thing. But experience is very important. I think it also helped. It was very bad for the country, but it also helped to have 4 years of horror. What went before me was horror. And by comparison, I think anything looks good. And I don't want to demean what we've done because we've done a lot of records, but what they've done to our country should never be forgiven. Allowing millions and millions of people to come into our country that shouldn't be here. It's such a big aspect of what we're doing now with the borders, and it could have been so easy. When I gave over the country, the border was great. Now it's better than it was, but it was much worse than it was in 2016 when I took it over. That was a border problem also. But I think when people see the horror show that we had for 4 years, an absolute horror show, they tried to kill, it was almost like they tried to kill our country. And the beautiful thing is now we have the hottest country in the world. You know, I was with the King of Saudi Arabia, the leader of Qatar, the leader of UAE, and many other leaders at NATO, separately, a whole group. And every one of them virtually said, you have the hottest country in the world right now. And 6 months ago, they also said, we thought your country was dead. They actually thought it was dead, and it felt dead. We had not only no leadership, we had negative leadership. It was a regressive leadership. So I think that probably makes it look good too, but we've done a lot.
Well, you know, throughout the 4 years.
And we do have to give Trump his W's on, well, immigration, because like I said, numbers are 99% down. The border's basically closed. Now the only problem is getting these guys or getting the illegals up out of here. And well, let's be real, the economy's doing well. And this is, well, as of now, the economy is doing pretty good. The big, beautiful bill's only been signed, well, less than 3 weeks ago. So we'll see where everything goes within the coming months.
While you were not here at this White House, I know that there were some very dark times, some times where people counted you out, thought that you'd never come back, yet you're here right now. So in those moments, what was it that kept you going? Why is it that you are back here in this White House now, despite so many people saying it wasn't possible?
Well, number one,
In my honest opinion, I'm actually glad. In hindsight, it's actually a good thing Trump got cheated out of the 2020 election, because then he got to reset his cabinet. He would have got stuck with that same cabinet that was backstabbing him. And since he lost that election, or it was stolen from him, as he likes to say, he was able to pretty much, well, drain his own personal swamp within his administration.
when I saw what was happening to the country, they were destroying our country. They were allowing people to come into our country from prisons, from mental institutions, gang members, the worst gang members in the world, make our gang members look like, nice people. They were coming in at levels that nobody had ever seen before. No check-in, no vetting, no anything. Just come into our country and do whatever you want. And we were letting people coming in from prisons. Prisons were opened in many countries. They talk about Venezuela, but it was far more than Venezuela, all over the world. The Congo, they opened their prisons. They emptied them out into our country. And I saw what was happening, and it didn't take long. I saw that they were going to go. I built hundreds of miles of wall. There were little sections that you had to fill in just to close it in. And I saw that they weren't going to build them. And I even called in. I said, when are you going to just put those little sections? Would have taken 3 weeks. And I said, they want to have open borders. And that's what it was. Open borders, no vetting. To me, that's, inflation I've already taken care of it. So many of the other things, look at energy, look at fuel, look at this, so many things we've done.
If you listen to the Great Replacement theory, they were trying to flood the border states with a whole bunch of immigrants to try to flip, red states, or honestly, to replace our declining birth rate. So, instead of trying to create a stable economy or a foundation for families to build on, they rather just send in a whole bunch of illegals and say, screw us.
But, that's a big job, getting thousands, hundreds of thousands of criminals out of our country, murderers, 11,888 murderers. Many of those people have killed more than one person. Think of it. Murderers kill more than one person, more than half of them. And he let them into our country. It's not even, we love this country. It's not even believable. And I guess it wasn't him so much as people surrounding the beautiful Resolute desk. And I know them all. And they're not good. They're smart, but they're not good. They're smart in a different way, but evil intention. He was the worst president in the history of our country because of them also, but he was the worst.
For that, we're not even sure if Biden was a functioning president with this whole auto pen scandal and the fact that, his staffers might have been running the country. Yeah. And then here's the thing, though, due to Hunter Biden coming out and snitching on the administration as well, because they were pretty much trying to pin some things on Hunter Biden, through Jake Tapper's story. It's a whole mess right now with this whole auto pen situation, because Hunter Biden's going nah, I had nothing to do with that. It was his staffers. You probably put the cocaine in the White House on me, but not the auto pen.
President in the history of our country, and nobody's done such damage to our country, and we're fixing it. And I think we're fixing it very fast.
Well, we are at the anniversary of your Butler rally, where Eric and I, along with Luke and Carolina, watched on live television as so many people across the country and really the world did when there was the assassination attempt on you. And as we come to this moment, I'm thinking back to what happened right after that. You actually called all of us on the phone. And it was amazing to me that that was what you thought to do, that you wanted us to know that you were okay. And I know that's a moment none of us will ever forget. And I'm sure for you, tenfold.
Well, it was unforgettable. I didn't know exactly what was going on. I got whacked. There's no question about that. And fortunately, got down quickly. People were screaming, and I got down quickly, fortunately, because I think they shot 8 bullets. And one got me, and one got another one, and one got another one, and one killed Corey, the firefighter, great guy. And, we had a tremendous, massive crowd. Tens of thousands of people were there. And our sniper, within less than 5 seconds, was able to get him from a long distance with one shot. If he didn't do that, you would have had an even worse situation. It was really bad. But he really did his name is David, and he did a fantastic job. It went about his business just about 4 seconds. And that's when it all stopped, and he got him perfectly from a very long distance. So we got a little bit lucky in that regard.
There was so much conversation after that, though. You had members of Congress visiting the site there, people really on top of wanting to get answers to that. But I think we still are wondering.
Yeah.
Do you know? Are we going to get?
Oh, guys, let's remember to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people on the conversation by double tapping that screen. Appreciate the support.
Get answers? Will the American people get answers as to what ultimately happened there that day?
So they briefed me numerous times. The FBI, the Secret Service, sort of everybody. DOJ, Pamela's doing I think she's doing a fantastic job. But they briefed me, and I'm satisfied with it. They should have had somebody in the building. That was a mistake. They should have had communications with the local police. They weren't tied in. And they should have been tied in. So there were mistakes made. And that shouldn't have happened. And that building was a prime building in terms of what they were trying to do. So, but I was satisfied in terms of the bigger plot, the larger plot. I was satisfied. And, I have great confidence in these people. I know the people, and they're very talented, very capable. They had a bad day, and I think they'll admit that. They had a rough day. They didn't do a good job. They shouldn't have had anybody in that building. That building was a prime location for somebody that was disturbed, mentally disturbed. And we had, a couple of other events. This is a very dangerous job, being president. I say a race car driver, 1% of 1%, think of that, die. It's not a lot. A bull rider, I think that's pretty dangerous. It's like 1/10 of 1% die. And with the president, it's like 5%. Why didn't you tell me this? I could have maybe made a different decision, but I wouldn't have made a different decision because we're doing so well. The country's back. And it's, as I said, everyone's saying we've got the hottest country in the world, and we've done it when the king of Saudi Arabia told me that was 4 months, 4.5 months, and now it's almost 6 months. And when you think I would have said it would have taken longer than that, but we have been very active. Even doing this interview, I feel guilty because I'm supposed to right now be working.
We appreciate it, though.
It's, no, we're really busy, and doing a great job. We have other countries wanting to do business with us so badly. They never appreciated it. Now they do. They took advantage of our country on trade, on the military, on NATO.
Let's give Trump a quick little, 6-month recap because, like I said, he really set things off. 1, the tariffs. 2, ICE enforcement. I mean, the Dems really lost their mind over that. He's also gotten peace deals done. He's gotten ceasefires done. The crypto bill just passed. And then, of course, he got that big, beautiful bill to brag about all through the year.
I solved the NATO problem last week. And we had every country is now paying substantially more money, like from 2% to 5%, and they weren't paying the 2, but they're paying the 5, and it's over $1 trillion a year. Think of that, over $1 trillion a year, and it's going to make it something. And we got that done, and we have a big voice in NATO now. We had really not much of a voice. With Biden, you had no voice at all. He didn't know where he was. And so we're doing well. The trade thing is going to be very big. And we're sending out letters as we speak. They literally just started going out. And I signed the letters. And it's basically telling countries that we are going to give you the privilege to shop and work in our country. And I think people are going to respect it. You'll read the letter later, but it's a very similar letter, just different amounts, different numbers, different amounts of tariffs. And I think it's very good. And in some cases, we'll make deals. You know, we'll make a direct deal as opposed to a letter. And we've already made some of them with various countries. But it's a tremendous amount of money to this country. We were taken advantage of on trade, and we were taken advantage of on military. We'd protect a country. We got nothing for protecting. We'd spend billions of dollars to protect countries. I don't want to go into the countries, but pretty obvious which ones. And
now, so far, we've sent out about 22 trade letters awaiting the response of, well, these other countries. Because here's the thing: is either they're going to accept the trade letters and the and tariffs that come with them, or they're going to renegotiate, and they have until August 1st, or they're going to be faced to the letter, well, whatever the letter tells them they're going to pay in tariffs. Now, there's about two people. Vietnam kind of came over. We got Indonesia, who kind of submitted their trade deal. And then we got UK, who's still trying to work out the, I believe, the nuts and bolts of it. Or I believe they're still trying to, I guess, set up the logistics.
They're friendly, or some of them aren't that friendly. I mean, some of them, we're protecting countries that don't even like us. The whole thing is crazy. But if they don't like us, we'll let them know very quickly. But it's really incredible. The potential of this country is incredible. It's been run very foolishly. It's been run stupidly, so stupidly. And some of the countries are very upset now because they've been taking advantage of us for 30, 40 years. And I had it stopped. I was stopping in the process, and then we had the COVID in the last part of my administration. But we had the strongest economy in the history of our country. And this is going to be better, I predict. This is going to be better. The money coming in, the tariffs coming in, hundreds of billions of dollars are coming in. They're pouring in. And I had started that. China paid us a lot of money. No other president got anything from China, not 10 cents. Mm-hmm. And I got hundreds of billions of dollars. And who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? But we took in a lot of money, but the COVID ended it a little bit sooner. And we did a good job with that. But we helped other countries. We made the ventilators. We became the king of ventilators, right? But we did a good job with it. But it was what it was, a vicious, very hard to guard against disease, plague, whatever you want to call it. And I think,
the wild thing is they'll blame Trump for the high spending. Because here's the thing: if Trump didn't spend on, during COVID, you guys would have said he just let a whole bunch of people die. But since he did, now, he inflated the bit. He did all this spending like that wasn't supposed to happen. Yes, it was. Let's be honest. I mean, now I'm hearing that they're trying to put the spike in crime that happened in 2020. They're trying to put that on Trump. And I'm like, no. That was George Floyd. That was y'all liberals who want to go out there and commit crime and start hurting people. And then once that happened, police honestly stopped enforcing. I mean, there was people dying more in car crashes. When people would be calling the police for these shootouts, the police would be less likely to show up and people were dying. But hey.
We saved a lot of lives.
Well, you talk about all the money coming into the country, how big, the tariffs will be and leveling the playing field. You asked to have the one big, beautiful bill on your desk to sign on July 4th. You got it on America's birthday. And I think it was such a huge success for you, for House Republicans, for the House Senate. I mean, for the Senate. The question I think a lot of people have is, when will they actually start to see the positive impact from the one big, beautiful bill in their lives? The tax cuts, all of the big things that we could see from that.
They're already seeing them, and we are getting investment because of that bill. We're having investment made in this country that nobody's ever believed. We're up to close to $15 trillion. Other administrations they wouldn't do that in 4 years. $15 trillion, and we did it that was a number from a couple of months ago, and now it's substantially higher than that. We're having car companies come in and build their plants here, which they wouldn't have even thought about. They would have never done it. We have AI, which is the big hot thing, and they're building this.
Yeah, we got car companies coming back and giving jobs back to American through manufacturing. We got AI companies willing to set up data centers and nuclear plants here. And then, I mean, well, of course, drill, baby, drill.
Spending trillions of dollars in this country. They wouldn't have done that without what we just did last week. And, you know, I tell Republicans, you have to speak positively about it. Like when I have a chance with you and your show is doing so well, your ratings are so good. What's going on?
Better after this.
Well, you'll get good ratings, but your ratings were good without this. I mean, you're doing fantastically well. And I watch you, I watch Mark Levin. You have some good people, and it's not easy to watch. It's very, very much television, you know, must-see television, but congratulations. It's really a great success. So I say to people, Republicans or anybody, explain the bill because it's so big and so good. Because the Democrats, they only do one thing good, and that's complain. And they say it's going to cause death and this and that. They don't mean it's a soundbite. Somebody gave them a soundbite. It's going to cause death. Not going to cause death. It's going to keep people alive, and it's going to make our country.
It's going to save it for the people that need it. It's kind of crazy how the Dems are running off on this fear-mongering campaign of that, oh, no, these many people are going to die because of custom Medicaid. I mean, shout out to my man Cool. He showed us an article that was pretty much saying, well, because nurses are going to walk away and this guy might have a heart attack and the nurse walks in late, that's going to be blamed on Medicaid cuts. I'm like, dog. Man, that's some circumstantial stuff right there, but all right.
Country successful and really successful. So I always say, you have to explain because they have sound bites like Russia was a sound bite. They made up the 51 intelligence agents. They made up it came from Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom or bedroom or wherever the hell he wrote it and did that terrible stuff. But they had, they make up a sound bite and they send it to the fake news and they send it all over the place. So we have to fight back and we have to live by our wits. And it's unbelievable. It's the most incredible bill, one of the most incredible bills ever passed, and it's the biggest. It's the biggest bill of its kind ever passed, and we have to talk about it. When you think about no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, a big tax cut in addition to that, plus we're saving the tax cut that we made years ago, which is big. It expired in another couple of months. It would have expired. They would have had a 68% tax increase, and now they have a tax cut. And you have to explain that to people because, the public, they're driving a cab, they're working as a lawyer, accountant, or a teacher, or doing any one of a million different things. They're not into it like we are. You have to explain it. So every chance you get, because what they do is they set a phony, they're fake. The Democrats are fake. They're part of the fake news. And the fake news will take it and they'll go with it. Because I have learned so much about the news, about how crooked these newspapers are, like the New York Times is pure crooked, the Washington Post, so many of them. I so admire honest reporting. There's not that much of it, though. We really don't have that much. And I think to make America great again, we have to get a bigger percentage than we have. And nobody understands why. Why would somebody make up stories to make Biden look good when the man was grossly incompetent? What good does it do? I mean, other than lose credibility, they're down at the lowest number for credibility that they've ever had.
No, let's be real, though. Them trying to kind of paint over this whole, Biden's cognitive decline was absolutely hilarious. I mean, the guy just sitting there, just dazing off into space, walking the wrong direction, and them just trying to cover that all up was complete political theater. It was actually hilarious. But I was upset at times, but at a certain point, I was like, this is actually pretty funny because you're actually trying to hide this. And then anybody who questions it is automatically an ageist. Oh man, you just hate the president. Or you don't know what you're talking about, you damn conspiracy theorists.
They're way below Congress, which is very interesting. And I think Congress came a long way recently because we have people like Mike Johnson. He's been incredible. John Thune's been incredible. All of the people under them in, the Senate and the House. I've gotten to know him really well, and maybe better than ever because of this. This was almost an impossible thing to get approved because remember, you didn't have one Democrat vote, even though these are the biggest tax cuts in history, even though all of the things it's going to bring jobs, it's going to bring everything. We didn't have one Democrat vote because they said don't vote. And the one thing they do well is they stay together. You're reading stories now that a lot of them wanted to vote for it, but they couldn't. They couldn't do it. I read one this morning about a certain Democrat from a certain location in New York who wanted to vote so badly for it. He said, "This is going to kill our career if we don't vote." And he really didn't vote because they really do control that. It's pretty incredible, and they stick together. I admire that the stick-to-itiveness, but at the same time, I would say,
I mean, yeah, let's be real. Every Democrat in the Senate voted no. Not one Democrat said, you know what, I'll give it a shot. Or you know what, I'll hear them out. No, each and every one of them said no.
There's got to be something where when you're doing something good for the country. So we had to get all, because we have the majority by just a little bit, we had to get every single vote. And I guess it was 218 to 2. Think of that, 218 to 2. And that was incredible. That was a House vote. And the Senate vote was, relatively similar. But we didn't get one Democrat vote in the Senate. We didn't get one Democrat vote in the House. And I guess we had 3 votes. You had Rand Paul, right? Terrible. It's so sad. When I watch him, and it's so sad because there's never any suggestion about what to do, like, can we do this? They want to go, no. You have a guy named Massey.
No, hold on. Thomas Massey actually had an argument. He was like, look, y'all not cutting enough. And the problem is, Dems were rallying behind Thomas Massey without really knowing his argument. Like, little did they know. I mean, no, guys, Thomas Massey actually wanted more cuts. Like, the cuts that you guys were crying about, this man said, no, we need to double that. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, bro, like, the Dems are losing their mind over these cuts right now. Like, they're really going to start crying in the Senate if we just start doubling the cuts. So that was Massey's argument, that the cuts weren't deep enough.
In the House, and we call him Rand Paul Jr. He's just a no vote, automatic no vote. It's not like, gee whiz, fight for something. There's no fight. It was just no vote. I think they think it's good publicity for them. I think they think that. But it was very sad. Susan Collins, as you know, in the Senate voted no. It's shocking. And so good for their areas.
But you got it done.
We got it done. No, but when you think that out of all those votes, like in the Senate, we couldn't have more than 3, and we got it done. And in the House, we couldn't have more than 3. The House was 218 to 2. It's pretty amazing when you think of it. You just don't do that. It's almost impossible, and we got it done. And the reason we got it done because it's so good. And remember this, the Democrats wanted to vote for it, most of them, many of them, because it's all good stuff. I mean, it's all lower taxes and incentives and that, so many good things. Great on energy, stopping the EV mandate, which, hurts Elon, and, it's too bad. But I told him long before he endorsed me, I said, you'll never be with me because I'm going to stop the mandate, because the mandate said everybody has to have an electric car within a few years. And I said, that's not going to happen because not everybody wants an electric car. They want to have a hybrid, or they want to have a gasoline-powered car. For whatever reason, they want something else. Electric's like at 7%, and we opened it up to electric, but we ended the EV mandate. You don't have to have an electric car now. But I said, Elon's never going to love this. And I told him before he endorsed me, he gave me this beautiful endorsement. I said, I'm against everybody having an electric car. He said, you know what, as long as I'm on the same footing as everybody else. I thought it was a great statement, but it turned out not to be so because
now Elon has publicly, stated that it's not about the EV mandates. It's about the cuts to the government that need to be implemented. And maybe somebody should explain how this stuff is done to Elon, because it doesn't sound like Elon understands how our government works. Is that you can't pretty much stuff every category of spending in the big beautiful bill. You have to wait for another budget reconciliation to put other categories of budget cuts. I mean, look what they're doing now with the cuts of 9 billion. Well, yeah, it was like $9 billion from what funding APR. Well, what was it, NPR and PBS? So yeah, we got to wait for these cuts. And Elon, I don't think he understood that, and he never really back down because, like I said, his main argument for the big beautiful bill is that it's not cutting enough and there's more spending. When the problem is, like, Elon, all the cuts that you found still need to get pushed through Congress. This can't get pushed into the big beautiful bill. It doesn't work like that, and a lot of people don't understand that.
He was very upset about it.
Well, you seem to have a knack for putting people around you who are successful and make you even more successful. I think this has been sort of a trait of yours your entire life. If you go back to the Trump organization, you gave people opportunities that maybe they would never have taken themselves. And I feel like you've often seen things in people that they don't even see in themselves as well.
Especially women.
You did it for me.
Well,
I would say that for me as well. But
a lot of women.
Your cabinet is comprised of so many incredible people, and people that even a year ago, so many would never have imagined, like RFK Jr., who a year ago was running for president as a Democrat. Why do you think you have this ability? And I feel like it has really been to your benefit. Look at this incredible cabinet you've put together. They're all people who are working to make America great again.
They've been incredible, actually. The cabinet's been incredible. And I had a lot of good people in my first term. But again, I came here. I had never done it before. And I'm picking people that I never heard of. And I'm taking recommendations of, people that were sort of stupid people, like a John Bolton. He's a stupid guy.
And guys, let's remember to double tap that screen and like the video. Let's get more people on the conversation by double tapping that screen. Appreciate the support, guys.
Jesper, who was terrible. I mean, he was terrible, but I took some recreation. But overall, I got it right. I mean, we rebuilt our military. We did so many great things. But I now know the people. I know so well. I know them better.
And shout out to Soul Rogan for starting us off for $1. Ain't had too much to say. Just wanted to show some support. Appreciate you.
Better than anybody. I spent 4 years with. Sometimes you hit and miss, and sometimes you don't. But we had great people the first time, but we have really good people this time, and they get along with each other. They love each other. They love the country, and it's smoother. I think it's smoother. We did. A lot of people thought my first term was phenomenal. I did. I thought, we got the largest tax cut in history, the biggest tax cut in history. The biggest regulation cuts in history by 4 times. Nobody even came close. We rebuilt our military. They gave some of it away to Afghanistan in one of the most embarrassing moments ever. But, we terminated ISIS. ISIS was 100% gone and terminated. They started making a little bit of a comeback since Biden got in, as you know, but they were gone, and we'll take care of it. But now we're doing things that maybe are on even a different level. Now it's been, especially this last couple of weeks, has been pretty amazing.
This may be a bit of a self-serving question, but how important has family been to you? And
it's so crazy though. Now, let's get into these tax cuts that Trump is getting into. Now, everybody got to understand that when they talk about this $3.2 trillion, do you understand that part of that is in tax cuts? So a lot of people do not understand that when the government sees tax cuts as government spending, okay? So the government sees is letting you keep more of your money as pretty much basically spending money on you. I know, right? The twisted logic, but that's literally how the government sees tax cuts. So when you guys look at that 3.2 trillion, ask yourself, how much is that due to the tax cuts? Because apparently the government feels like, letting you keep your money is them pretty much spending money on you. But hey, it is what it is. I guess some people have a different definition or feel differently about taxing.
I mean, I'm going to say the last 10 years in all of this.
Well, like your husband is great. I mean, he's great. Whether he was my son or whether he was an executive, you can't hire anybody like him. He's so good. And he runs the business, and Don helps run the business. And Ivanka is doing a lot of things. She's an amazing person, and she's a little bit involved, when they want words of wisdom or whatever. She's she did a very good job here. All she wanted to, she could have had any job. I told her, I'll put you at the UN. She would have blown like somebody like Nikki Haley would have gotten blown away by Ivanka. She could never compete with Ivanka, but she did a good job at the UN, but it wouldn't be the same ball game. And I gave Ivanka choices of things that you might have taken and I might have taken, and all she wanted to do is get people jobs. She said, no, Daddy, and she got hundreds of thousands of jobs for people. She'd go around, worked hard, never got credit for it, but she'd go out and she'd go to Walmart, she'd go to Exxon Mobil, she'd go to all these big companies, and she'd give people jobs by the thousands. So I'd get, just added up to, I could tell you what the number is, but I don't want to say because nobody would believe it. But she worked hard and so competent, and she did a great job. Never, if I were a Democrat, she would have been a legend. You all would have been legends, but I think you're legends anyway. If you think about it, you wouldn't be doing any better. Now it's somehow there's a different mindset, but the kids have been amazing. I have really, really good kids.
Well, some people have called you the bodyguard of Western civilization.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that title?
Well, I understand what they mean. It was going bad. We were going bad. This country was going bad. And I don't
know. To be quite honest, it's kind of like we're the arms dealer of Western civilization. We're telling NATO to up their military spending. We're not really giving them this free military assistance, but we're pretty much telling them, look, you're going to increase your military spending. You're going to buy from us. So the bodyguard, not so much. Maybe the diplomat, but we're the diplomat and the armsman of the world, or arms dealer of the world.
Know that we would have had. When the King of Saudi Arabia talked to me about how we have the hottest, he said, your country was dead. We actually thought it was dead and gone. And they were already starting to talk to China about, getting involved in China, which was unnatural for them. A lot of people were talking to China and others about getting involved because we were a dead country. We were gone. And in the minds of many, I tell you, in my mind, one of the reasons I ran, I saw what was happening very early on. When I saw people pouring across our border, I said, no, put up that little, it would have taken three weeks to put up little sections of wall that we laid out because of legal reasons, condemnation reasons, different things. And because we wanted to bring our equipment back in through the wall, because we built hundreds of miles. And I said, why aren't they filling that in? It would have been complete. In fact, I added a lot more. I built a lot more than I said I was going to build. I made it much longer. But I said, they want to have open borders. That was the first time I realized it. I didn't think it would be possible for anybody to want open borders because, who would want open borders? And open borders where people come in totally unvetted and unchecked, totally just walk right in, walk right through. And some of the people, I know I want to be politically correct, but some of these people, you can look at them and you can say, these people are trouble. This is a rough group of people. And we're right now getting.
It's so funny, though, because, Dems always do talk about, raise the minimum wage, raise that minimum wage of Republicans. Well, Dems, stop letting in illegals, stop letting in so many damn immigrants to the point where it's damn near impossible to raise the minimum wage. When you have such a high supply of workers, yeah, they can the employers can kind of be stagnant with their wages. When there's a scarcity of work, or I say less workers in the workforce, then yes, we can start demanding more, and wages do tend to rise. So when you go ahead and flood the job market with illegals or even legal immigrants, it does take away from the U.S. citizen.
Them out, and you know what? ICE and Border Patrol,
through the through the H-1B visa programs and all that good stuff.
Tom Holman, Christie's been amazing. Tom has been amazing. Tom was one of my first people that I put in. I said, you got to just do the border. He didn't want to do anything else. He just wanted to, because that's what he wants to do. But you have a big deal with lots of other things there. And I said, who would be the best to head it up? Homeland Security. And he said, I'd like Christie Noem. And I said, that's great. Now, I knew her very well, but I didn't know her that way. She was a great governor, South Dakota. Really did a good job. But boy, she's been great. And every one of I can't think of one who hasn't been at least very good. You know, they've all been terrific, and it's been really good. But I think we get a lot of credit on the border because last month we had 0 people come into our country. We had people come in, but they had to come in legally. They come in through a process. We want people to come in. We need people because we have a booming business climate now, and the farmers need people, and hotels need people, et cetera. But coming in illegally, we had
Yeah, I get that, but the thing is, though, do we let these guys get what abuse these illegals to get for slave wages and all that good stuff? Like, no, I don't think we should let any corporation get off on that. I mean, no hotel, no farm should be able to just hire illegals and pay them under minimum wage. I just don't believe in that, and that is what keep wages stagnant, because we allow corporations to do things like that. And it's not just in the hotel industry and the farming, it's in other industries as well.
0. Now, even I'm not sure that I can believe that number. You know, you're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of people came in through Biden, and they say 0. But and the people that do the list tend to be a very liberal group, I will tell you, that have been there a long time. And I said, I'll accept it. But it was close to that number. I'll tell you what, they said 0, and I'm going to take it. But it's hard to believe that it's 0. You're talking about hundreds of miles of border. We've done a great job. And the problem with doing a great job that fast is people forget, you know. Last time I did a great job, we had a border problem, nothing like it was this time. But we had a border problem, and I solved it in about 4 weeks.
God, no.
And I'd make speeches and talk about the border, and my people would say, sir, you shouldn't even waste your time. Nobody wants to hear about the border. Now it's starting to be again. You don't hear about the border anymore. We did numbers that were unbelievable, and I almost can't talk about it because nobody wants to hear it.
I mean, yeah, you done fixed the problem. So now it's like, all right, great. You fixed the border problem. Now let's get on to deporting these guys and then the economy, because, hey, the Dems didn't even believe that he could fix this. They said he needed a border bill. No, he just actually needed to enforce immigration policy and border policies, which is absolutely funny because it kind of proved that the Dems were honestly just lying to us about, oh, we need a bill. Trump struck down the bill. That's why we weren't able to fix the border. No, you didn't really care about the border. Let's be honest. But all right, guys, let's get over to Putin's big interview. I believe this was aired maybe about like 3 days ago or so. And let's see here. It says Putin's big interview. West wanted geopolitical advantage. It was not ideology. All right, let's get right into it.
I've been in the presidential pool for 20 years. I have watched many of your trips. I remember the times when there were nonstop business trips to European countries and Russia's constant desire to interact and build relations with the West. At what point did we realize that these so-called partners of ours were not really our partners? It was clear from the early 2000s. Yet we had illusions, I did too, which were about the following. Me and many others at that time believed that the problems in relations between the Soviet Union and the so-called West were primarily ideological differences. On one side, a communist regime, which was considered by many as tyranny, and on the other, the democratic world led by the United States. Strangely enough, I worked for almost 20 years in the Soviet Union's intelligence. I also thought that the main contradictions were of ideological nature. But the Soviet Union collapsed, there was no communist regime, yet the dismissive attitude towards the strategic interests of the Russian Federation remained not just dismissive, but it was all tied to the clear desire to achieve geopolitical advantages. Moreover,
Which is that, well, I'm going to say this. It is true that Putin honestly did try to get into NATO. NATO told him no because, well, I mean, hey, they pretty much needed a villain, and Putin was that guy.
even when I became president, I didn't understand everything right away. I began to convey to my Western colleagues, look, you say one thing, but do another. Here is the proof. Then I presented this proof. They nodded and said, yes, we will sort it out now. And nothing happened, it was quite the opposite. It became obvious to me that ideology might have had some significance, but essentially, all these contradictions are based on geopolitical interests. That was the main thing. I mean, the Soviet Union performed an auto da fe, it liquidated itself.
I mean, because let's be real, we don't have a religious difference because they're a Christian country. We're in a majority Christian country. Now, when it comes to how he runs things, let's be real. I mean, we've gotten along with more crazier leaders than Putin. So, what's the big fuss with this guy? Why are we just trying to push a war between him and Ukraine? Well, really, NATO.
Partly, I think, I never discussed this with my predecessors. They believed that Russia would become part of the so-called civilized world. In the West, they decided the following: there is no Soviet Union, so why should we follow the rules concerning Russia, which does not possess the potential might that the Soviet Union had? Now we will carve out something for ourselves as we like and live by rules we invented for ourselves, ignoring our interests. I will not go into details now because we proposed a lot in the field of strategic offensive arms and in the field of missile defense. Everything was constantly rejected. Well, it became clear that until we assert ourselves as an independent sovereign power capable of defending our future, we will not be respected. In those relatively recent times when we tried to copy everything from the West, many worshipped the USA in 1990s, when you worked in the St. Petersburg City Hall, was it really the case that a senior American delegation flew to St. Petersburg? And one of the Americans either pushed or rudely handled a Russian on the runway, and upon learning about this, you refused to receive this delegation at St. Petersburg City Hall? Did that happen?
Что-то такого, честно говоря, не очень-то
I don't quite remember that. Honestly speaking, maybe it was... Yes, I probably understand what you're talking about now. There was an episode. Honestly, it was insignificant. This American delegation did come to St. Petersburg, and someone from this delegation was very rude to a border guard. Yes, that's what happened. I was recalling whether it was a customs officer or a border guard. It was a border guard. I considered that absolutely unacceptable because a person in uniform, while performing his duties, represents the state, and treating him with disdain means treating our state with disdain. Of course, we didn't refuse to receive this delegation. We worked with them as planned according to protocol, but I simply didn't interact with them. Is it risky to let them understand, you, friends, are behaving very hypocritically?
Damn.
Well, yes, in some...
Wow, he pretty much said, man, I turned away negotiation just because they was treating one of my border police wrong. I like it. And he pretty much saying, yo, if you disrespect people in my military, you're disrespecting my whole country. And you know what? I mean, I feel the same way. Like, yeah, if you're disrespecting our military, man, you're disrespecting our country. If you show disrespect towards them, I don't care if you're a world leader. You're basically disrespecting our country.
Sense it is risky because Russia opposed those trends that were gaining momentum in the world at that time. By the way, I drafted my Munich speech while flying on the plane. While flying, I looked at the draft that my colleagues prepared, put it aside, and rewrote everything from scratch. I did this not because we wanted to confront and argue with someone. No. Russia is a country that cannot live otherwise, and I considered it correct and timely to articulate our concerns. Moreover, you can trust me, I saw that the same concerns arose among many other participants in international relations. But considering the global power of the United States, they kept quiet and held their tongues.
All right, guys, let's make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Appreciate the support, by the way, but let's make sure to double tap that screen. And if you want to know when this interview was done, it was done July 13th, 2025.
But I reiterate, I didn't say it to argue or to confront Russia against someone. We simply cannot live otherwise. Russia will either be independent and sovereign or will not exist at all. I wanted to convey this to our partners in the hope that they would hear and somehow adjust their attitude towards Russia, considering that, for instance, since the 1990s they promised us not to expand NATO to the east. They lied at every step, constantly deceiving and pretending that nothing of the kind happened.
True. NATO did draw a red line at Germany, says NATO's not supposed to cross this red line. NATO done, crossed it 3, 4, 5 times. And then I guess Putin's final red line, the red line he was willing to act upon, because apparently that red line wasn't Germany if he wasn't trying to act upon it. But the red line he was willing to act upon was Ukraine.
Same was true on many other issues. Therefore, it seemed to me that it was about time to tell our colleagues, we need to live peacefully. Let's somehow treat each other with respect, without imposing our will, without attempting to suppress another will, considering the interests of all participants in international communication. I don't know how effective it was, but since it's often remembered, it seems it was timely, that's what I want to say. But unfortunately, it was not heard. We constantly, I want to emphasize, constantly made attempts to establish relations to not lead to the situation we are in today and to develop some common rules. As soon as Ivan IV Ivan the Terrible said, "No, we remain Orthodox," a legend immediately arose that he was cruel, a tyrant, that he was insane, and so on. Although no one recalls in such a context what was done by Oliver Cromwell, what happened in England, in France. The Western history is silent about this. In any case, it does not give such evaluations as that it was barbarism, that civilization is absent. But they tried to subordinate Russia even then. In some former colonial empires, in Great Britain, in France, they consider us guilty for the collapse of their colonial empires. And this historical memory, historical negativity persists, I see it. Strangely enough, it sometimes makes me laugh when I watch it. But I note it in small fragments. I'm not making this up, I see it. But the fact is that after World War II, the United States, along with the Soviet Union, by the way, in some ways worked towards the destruction of these empires and worked to assist the colonies in gaining their independence and sovereignty.
Well, man, you can actually see some of his work in Africa. My man do be trying to help any African country free themselves of any European or Western influence. Like, yeah, he's that guy out there in Africa. Actually, a lot of African countries are starting to lean in the Russian direction, which is a problem. But I mean, hey, it's better than the guys who are trying to pillage you for your resources. All right, guys, now let's get into Howard Lucknick on Face the Nation. All right, let's keep it going.
For more on the Trump administration's economic policy, we go now to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Welcome back to Face the Nation, Mr. Secretary.
Great to be here.
Well, you heard in our polling some of the perceptions of the economy. 61% of Americans believe the administration's putting too much focus on tariffs. 70% say the administration.
Now, this is a CBS News polling, so I mean, barely anybody on the right or MAGA was asked. Barely any conservatives was asked because CBS News polling and YouGov. Another polling website I ain't heard about. And this polling was done July 16th through the 18th.
Is not doing enough to lower prices, and 60% oppose new tariffs on imported goods. This is a centerpiece to your policy plan. How do you reverse public opposition?
Oh, they're going to love the deals that.
I love how they act like the. Let's be real, guys. Kamala Harris lost that election. So when you guys mostly ask liberals about, oh, well, what do you think Trump's doing with the tariffs? You're not really getting the real perspective of America. Let's be real. Or the real opinion of Americans. Because who won the popular vote? Trump. Electoral vote? Trump. So wouldn't it make sense for, to try to get more of these guys' opinions instead of just going into your echo chamber of liberals?
President Trump and I are doing. I mean, they're just going to love them. You know, the president figured out the right answer and sent letters to these countries, said this is going to fix the trade deficit. This will go a long way to fixing the trade deficit. And that's gotten these countries to the table. And they're going to open their markets or they're going to pay the tariff. And if they open their markets, the opportunity for Americans to export, to grow their business, farmers, ranchers, fishermen, this is going to be, the next 2 weeks are going to be weeks for the record books. President Trump is going to deliver for the American people.
Next 2 weeks for the record books, because you have that August 1st deadline. But President Trump sent letters to most of the major trading partners announcing higher tariff rates effective August 1st. That could hit countries accounting for 3/4 of U.S. imports. Let's talk about Canada, one of the big ones. Their prime minister said this past week there's not a lot of evidence they can get a trade deal with the U.S. that avoids tariffs. Is your message to Canada, Mr. Secretary?
It does seem that Trump is at least going to that 10 to 20% baseline tariff. Remember, this is a part of Trump's economic plan, is to fund the government through, well, tariffs, or at least slightly funded. And right now, he's being pretty successful with it. You know, $122 billion in tariff revenue so far.
No matter what they offer at the negotiating table, free trade's gone. There will be a tariff in place.
Now, that's silly. We have a plan called USMCA, U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement. Virtually 75% of all goods coming from Mexico and Canada already come in tariff-free. The president said, look, unless you stop this fentanyl and close the border, we're just going to keep tariffs on the other 25%. And that's what he has on. So don't be confused about it. The president understands that we need to open the market. Canada is not open to us. They need to open their market. Unless they're willing to open their market, they're going to pay a tariff. That's a simple message the president has.
I don't know if that's a simple message, because Vietnam opened their market and they're facing, a 19% tariff or so? And Indonesia, it's Indonesia. Indonesia opened their market and they're still facing a 19% tariff. So is Vietnam. They opened their market as well, still facing the tariff. So I'd ask them, Lugnick, are you sure about that? That if they open their market, we're gonna drop tariffs as well? Because it kind of sounds like even if they open their market, they'll just face a lower rate.
It's fair trade. It's reciprocal trade. Why should we have our country be wide open while theirs is closed? This is an 80-year wrong that President Trump is trying to fix, and our businesses are going to really, really enjoy it. I think the president's going to open between $300 and $400 billion of opportunity for Americans. That's 1.5%, up to 1.5% GDP growth, because the president's going to open all these markets up. Yeah. You saw it with Vietnam. You saw it with Indonesia. You're going to watch all these other countries decide if they want to do business with America. Let's just open our market up to America. That's opportunity that President Trump is bringing.
Well, we saw framework announcements with those countries you just mentioned, but back on what the Canadian Prime Minister, the man you're negotiating with, said, he's assuming there's going to be a tariff here. There's already this baseline 10% tariff that we are seeing from the administration. Is that set in stone, or is it going to go to like 15 or 20%?
Well, I think what you've got is you should assume that the small countries, you know, the Latin American countries, the Caribbean countries, many countries in Africa, they will have a baseline tariff of 10%. And then the bigger economies will either open themselves up or they'll pay a fair tariff to America for not opening themselves up and treating America unfairly. So what the president's view is, and what she's instructed me to do, is say, look, if you're willing to open yourself up and really open your economy to American business, to ranchers, fishermen, farmers, and businesses, then of course we'll make a better deal with you. But if you're going to keep your tariffs and your tariff barriers holding us down, then of course it seems fair that you should pay a tariff to do business with the greatest customer on earth, the American consumer.
Okay, so just quickly, are you going to renegotiate that free trade deal, the USMCA?
Oh, I think the president is absolutely going to renegotiate USMCA, but that's a year from today.
Exactly.
So today, of course, 75% comes in free, but of course, should you expect us to renegotiate it? It makes perfect sense for the president to renegotiate it. He wants to protect American jobs. He doesn't want cars built in Canada or Mexico when they could be built in Michigan and Ohio. It's just better for American workers. The president's got the
Yeah, because let's be real, free trade was never supposed to be our economic policy or our economic practice. It was supposed to be a form of foreign relation. We supposed to do free trade as a way of being kumbaya with countries, not sitting there giving them all of our business, giving them all of our jobs and factory work. No, that's free trade was never supposed to be done like that. And the reason why is because most of the jobs we were giving away, we could have done here. We didn't have to give those jobs away though, but we did. So, hey, it is what it is on that note.
American workers back. That's why they elected him. That's why the stock market's at all-time highs. They understand the president actually understands business and is doing it the right way.
Well, okay, let me ask you about Europe. Boeing airplanes, Kentucky bourbon. These are some of the things that the Europeans are looking to target if we get into a trade war as retaliation by them.
They're not going to do it.
They're not good, bro. China couldn't even beat us. What makes you think the European Union got a chance? China done capitulated at this point. Like, yes, everything's all good with China now. They're sending over the magnets while we're working out other trade deal with countries to wane ourselves off their rare earth minerals. China capitulated, guys. We got them to back down. Who is the European Union at this point?
You just met with the European trade negotiator. He came out kind of downbeat. You disagree? You think we are going to get a deal with the European Union?
You know, I was on the phone with the European trade negotiators this morning, about a half hour ago. So there's plenty of room. Look, the president and the European Union, these are the two biggest trading partners in the world talking to each other. We'll get a deal done. I am confident we'll get a deal done. Okay. And it will be great for America because the president has the back of America. So I think all these key countries will figure out it is better to open their markets to the United States of America than to pay a significant tariff. And Donald Trump has made that point clear. No one has protected America.
Now, guys, if you don't know, there was a truce and agreed framework between China and the U.S., all right? So the U.S. and China agreed on a trade framework in London and Geneva, pausing tariff escalation, easing export restrictions, including rare earth mineral shipments and sales of certain tech like NVIDIA AI chips. This was done back in June. That's what I'm saying. China already dropped their tariffs. Actually, they dropped their tariffs before they even got to the negotiating table because they needed our imports in order to make their products. So we've been defeated China in the trade war. That's why we're looking at the EU like, bro, who do y'all think y'all are if China had to bend a knee?
The way Donald Trump has protected America. It is so fun to work for him because I have him behind me saying the right things for America, and I get to do those negotiations with all these countries. And you're going to see the best set of trade deals you've ever seen for America and for the American people.
Is that August 1st deadline with the EU a hard deadline? Are you going to get a deal since you were just on the phone?
No, that's a hard deadline. So on August 1st, the new tariff rates will come in. But nothing stops countries from talking to us after August 1st, but they're going to start paying the tariffs on August 1st. Now, remember, the world is paying 10% right now, and China's paying 30%. So that's right now, and that's why we're running at about plus $30 billion a month for the American people. You got to remember, this is going to pay off our deficit. This is going to make America stronger. We are finally protecting America.
Well, you'll have that income if you keep them in place, but if you're negotiating them away, then they won't be there. So that is contradictory to me. But
nothing's getting no.
So
nothing's
you're not
getting
negotiating
away. We have a 10% of the world. No, 10% is definitely going to stay. Many countries will pay higher, like Vietnam and Indonesia, right? They're 19 and 20%. Most countries will pay higher. The small countries are likely to be.
Oh, guys, if you're wondering where I got that information about, China's trade deal or the de-escalation of it, Reuters. China says successful U.S. trade talks may make returns to tariff war unnecessary. That's coming from Reuters. The Washington Post, NVIDIA says Trump administration lifts ban on AI chip sales to China. So yes, this is mostly coming from Reuters and the Washington Post. If you want to know the sources for that, and you can look it up yourself.
10%, but the bigger countries are likely to pay higher. That's just the way it's going to be because we can't have these $1 trillion trade deficit. It's just wrong for America, and Donald Trump is going to fix it.
And American corporations are just going to swallow that and not pass that price increase on to consumers? What's your projection?
What's so interesting is that you're worried about the importers. How about the people who build and employ Americans
No, I'm asking
here?
about people who go to the
People
store
who
to
make
buy.
cars here, people who manufacture here. They don't pay a tariff. They don't pay a tariff at all. So President Trump says it all the time. Build in America, you don't pay a tariff. The idea that these importers are more important than the people who employ Americans, I think it's just a wrong way of thinking about it. Americans deserve to be employed here and have the best jobs in the world, and that's what Donald Trump is trying to deliver.
I was asking about consumer prices, what people will pay when they go to the store. But since you don't want to answer,
I think they'll be low. I think they'll be low, shockingly low.
Okay, the consumer price index doesn't currently reflect that, though. That the trend is towards higher.
Well, it just went up. What did it go up? 0.1%?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The consumer price index went up a 0.3%. 0.3%, guys. And here's the thing. The consumer price index has stayed low. It stayed consistent. It's been consistently low prices all the way from Liberation Day till now. And it goes up 0.3%. And Debs are saying, oh, the prices are skyrocketing, guys. It's the end. And it's like, bro, are y'all serious? Do y'all hear yourselves? You damn panicans. Yes, look up the CPI. It didn't even go up a full percentage, a 0.3, goddamn it. You guys are crying. It's like, oh my God. I'm sorry, but
stupid. The dollar has declined
0.2 on the core,
more than 10%, right? So the dollar declining sort of softens tariffs completely. These are small numbers. You're going to see inflation is not going to change. Remember, inflation is an expectation of rates continuing to grow. Tariffs are just going to reset the price level for imports, for certain imports from certain countries, but everybody who's building in America. And remember, Donald Trump announced over $11 trillion of building in America. All that building in America, the construction jobs here, but then when those products come on the shelves, they come on much cheaper. Energy is cheaper. I think you're going to see inflation stay right where it is. And Jerome Powell, who's held these rates up way too high.
And let's be real, inflation has stayed around that, the 2%, 2.3%. The prices have stayed stagnant. So all this fear mongering, here's the thing, like you guys aren't even right about the economy and the state of the economy. You guys did all this fear mongering and you're still wrong. And now you're telling everybody, oh, just wait longer, guys. Just wait longer. Just wait a couple more months longer, S.E.T. Wait another economic quarter. We waited 3 months already and we're in a good spot. We're in a surplus for June, $29 billion. What are you guys talking about at this point? I'll give you guys another 3 months to look stupid, but we're already past one quarter, and we're going into the second one. Let's see how that works out. But here's the problem. You guys have been fear-mongering on this since, as if it was going to happen the next month. Remember, all this like tariff derangement syndrome started early April. Bro, we're in July, and you guys are still fear-mongering on the same stuff that hasn't happened. And then you're telling us, no, wait another 3 months. Wait next year. Wait 2 years, S.E.T. No, wait till Trump's out of office. Then you're going to feel it. Really?
Way too high. You're going to see them cut rates. The Fed's going to cut rates. Mortgages are going to be cheaper. And America is going to be so much better off under Donald Trump.
There are reports that the Treasury Secretary has talked the president out of his threat to fire the Fed chair, since the Fed's already expected on a consensus basis to be lowering rates. Are you telling us tonight or today that he's not under threat, that he will keep his job?
The president is an amazingly transparent person. When he thinks something, he says it. So he says, look, this guy's doing the worst job. We have interest rates the same as Gabon. You know, Europe, all of Europe, the 27 countries of Europe are in the 2s and we're in the 4s. That means your mortgage.
I don't know why they keep trying to get people into this trick question of, oh, you think Trump's going to fire the Fed? He can't. You can't fire the Fed. They got a 10-year term. No matter what, no matter who's president, you can't fire them. It is what they can resign, Maybe you can convince them to resign, but tell them that they're fired, you cannot do.
Everybody's watching. Their mortgage is 2 points higher than it should be. So the Fed should be cutting rates, and Donald Trump's going to try to figure out how to get there. Whether he decides to let Jerome Powell stay in the job or not, I'll leave that to Donald Trump. I think the guy's doing the worst job. He's costing us, you and me and the American people, more than $500 billion. I think he's costing us $700 billion a year by keeping rates too high. It's just wrong. I don't know.
By cutting rates, we do save on the debt. And if one of the main problems is what we're spending on the debt, then cutting interest rates would be a smart move right now, since our main concern is handling the debt. Right? Right. All right, guys, now let's get over to the next one here. Gabbard reveals striking findings, man. It's because let's just say Obama might get brought up on treason. All right, guys, let's get right into it. Because the Russia hoax, well, it was a lie. And you guys were calling this man a Russian agent for a while now.
Sunday morning with the biggest political scandal of all, collusion and conspiracy at the highest levels against President Trump. Now, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard revealing what this audience has known all along. A cabal of high-ranking officials led by then-President Barack Obama, CIA Director John Brennan, and Hillary Clinton, among others, took the world on a wild goose chase to try and take down their political enemy, Donald Trump, no matter the casualties along the way. DNA Tulsi Gabbard is now calling for prosecutions, revealing declassified documents from the Russia collusion made-up investigation, which she says detail a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest level of the Obama White House to stop incoming President Donald Trump. The cabal included Barack Obama, John Brennan, James Clapper, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Jim Comey, and Susan Rice, who pushed a made-up story that President Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election, so the cabal would not lose their grip on power. All of this exactly as then Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, Judiciary Committee member John Ratcliffe, and President Trump himself told us so many times from day one.
What that is it's the original intelligence, the original reasons that the counterintelligence investigation was started. Now, this is really important to us because a counterintelligence investigation uses the tools of our intelligence services that are not supposed to be used on American citizens. So we've long wanted to know, well, what intelligence did you have that actually led to this investigation? So what we found now, after the investigators have reviewed it, is that, in fact, there was no intelligence.
As a former federal prosecutor, my opinion is that declassifying them would not expose any national security information, would not expose any sources and methods. It would expose certain folks at the Obama Justice Department and FBI and their actions actions taken to conceal material facts from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court.
How involved was John Brennan?
Totally involved. He was totally involved. John Brennan was one of the architects, in my opinion.
Guys, let's make sure we double tap that screen and like the video, and let's make sure to support the show. It's a way we keep the show running longer and make it more engaging, guys. All right, let's keep it going, and let's remember to double tap that screen.
You look at Brennan, you look at Clapper, you look at them all, but ultimately, the president knew everything. The president knew everything. President Obama and Vice President Biden, they knew everything.
And Comey and Brennan and Clapper, they all were terrible, and they lied to Congress. They spied on my campaign, which is treason. They spied both before and after I won.
Joining me now is the woman herself, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Director, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Good morning, Maria. Thank you.
What was the most damning thing that you learned after looking through all of these declassified documents?
Maria,
Hey, shout out Misfit Supervisor. She says, love what you do here, Set. I enjoy it every time, hey. I appreciate it, sis. Hey, shout out.
Implications of this are frankly nothing short.
Oh, guys, and make sure to follow Misfit Supervisor on her YouTube. She kind of just starting out, so make sure you show some support.
Of historic, over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American, because it has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. What we saw occur here, as the documents we released detailed, was that we had a sitting president of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election, that the American people had chosen Donald J. Trump to be the next president, commander-in-chief of the United States. And so they decided that they would do everything possible to try to undermine his ability to do what voters tasked President Trump to do. So creating this piece of manufactured intelligence.
You know what's so funny? It's so funny because this is going to be like the Dems Epstein list. You know how they kind of came out and told us, oh, Epstein killed himself. He wasn't a part of Mossad or intelligence. And we're just like, no way, bro. You're lying. Come on now. This is literally going to be the Dems. Like, guys, you know that Obama kind of orchestrated the whole Russian hoax, and it's a lie, right? Right?
No, it was a huge movie. He was the lead. No.
Dems every time.
That claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected, contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said exactly the opposite, that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to try to, quote unquote, hack the United States election for the presidency of the United States. So the effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people, undermining our democratic republic, and enacting what would be essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people.
Yeah. I want to go back to something Devin Nunes said, which is exactly what you're saying right now. And he said, after all of our investigation, we found that there was no intelligence. There was no intelligence actually indicating that Trump colluded with Russia. And what happened? Because there was a presidential daily briefing that was presented to President Obama every day. And every day it said the same thing. We have no evidence of collusion. We have no evidence that Russia did this with Donald Trump.
Now, Obama got two moves. It's either he cleverly passed the blame off to the director of his CIA at the time, or he doesn't do that. He just kind of takes full responsibility. Now, because he can say that, no, I didn't know for real, or I was being fed misinformation. So there's two ways that Obama can kind of skirt his way out of this.
So what happened? How did they actually get the public to believe, and half the public believed, that actually Trump did collude?
Well, this is the thing, Maria, when you look at the assessments that were made, not just by one element of the intelligence community, but in my role as the director of national intelligence, I oversee 18 different intelligence community elements. And in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election in favor of either candidate. The evidence showed, the intelligence showed that, again, Russia did not have either the intent nor the capability to be able to impact the outcome of the United States election. So it was very striking when we look back again at the documents that I declassified and released that shows there was a shift in early December, the first week of December. Again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a president's daily brief that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had to pull it because they had received new guidance. The very next day, this meeting was...
Okay, there you go. It does seem like who's ever in charge of giving the president his daily brief, or whoever writes down the president's daily brief, kept that information off. So let's just give Obama the benefit of the doubt. And let's say if he just saw it and he'd have been like, oh, there's no proof that Trump's a Russian agent. All right, cool. We'll just let it go. But if they're not telling Obama and he's like, oh, well, all right, then you're not really saying he's not. So I guess he is. I can kind of see where, the confusion sets in.
Called a National Security Council meeting, bring together all of the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet. And the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017 was the foundational groundwork that they continued to reference over and over and over again to enact this years-long coup against President Trump.
Now, I know that Devin Nunes came out with the Nunes report and a lot of other reports after that to indicate everything that you're saying. And I guess the worst of the reports, the real evidence, is the reports of most recent, right? The last reports are the worst reports that we're going to see. And I understand that there is more, perhaps, that you are going to come out with next week. And I was told that that's why they raided Mar-a-Lago, that they wanted to find the Trump-Russia documents that indicated there was absolutely no collusion and that there was no evidence to even start such an investigation. But Trump didn't have it there in Mar-a-Lago, but that's why they raided his house in 2022. Is that correct?
I don't have the details on the specifics of the Mar-a-Lago raid itself. Those are within the possession of the FBI. But there's no question in my mind that this intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered be published, which contained a manufactured intelligence document. It's worse than even politicization of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people. So yes, next week we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place and the extent to which this information was sought to be hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who would be in a position to do something about it. And that's really the point here that I think is most important, Maria, and you said it in your opening. Accountability is essential for the future of our country, for the American people to have any sense of trust in the integrity of our democratic republic. Accountability, action, prosecution, indictments for those who are responsible for trying to steal our democracy is essential for us to make sure that this never happens to our country again.
Yeah. And I want to get to that right now because I've heard talk of a criminal referral. Are you referring this in a criminal matter?
We are referring all of the documents that we have uncovered to the Department of Justice and the FBI for a criminal referral.
Yeah. And do you believe that we will see prosecutions? I mean, our audience wants to know where this story goes from here. Will we ever see anyone held accountable for this incredible lie on the American people?
I will do all that I can, and we have whistleblowers, actually, Maria, coming forward now after we release these documents, because there are people who were around, who were working within the intelligence community at this time, who were so disgusted by what happened. We're starting to see some of them come out of the woodwork here because they too, like you and I and the American people, want to see justice delivered. So we're going to provide everything that we have, everything that we will continue to gather to the Department of Justice for that direct intent and that direct purpose. There must be indictments, those responsible, no matter how powerful they are and were at that time, no matter who was involved in creating this treasonous conspiracy against the American people, they all must be held accountable.
So do you expect, just to be clear, do you expect indictments and prosecutions?
Come on.
I'm not a lawyer. In my view, we have the evidence to be able to move forward and bring about justice, yes, to prosecute and indict those responsible.
And I want to
It's almost like you should have brought in the DOJ. I mean, you should have brought in Pam Bondi and Tulsi Gabbard to be like, look, Pam, you looked at the evidence. Is this enough to go ahead and bring people in on charges or not?
Really put a spotlight on who's responsible, because
And hopefully she don't turn around and be like, there was no Russian collusion for real. Obama, he was, he never said anything about that, guys. And he's a street man. He's just a straight man. He's a straight man, the black president, the best one to ever do it, guys. Just complete 180.
we've talked about the highest levels: Barack Obama, John Brennan, James Clapper. But we also have to look at things like, you just found all of this. Why didn't Durham find it? Why didn't Mueller?
And guys, I would ask you guys to be a little bit more reasonable. Now, I understand people don't like Fox News, and I get it. I completely get it. But here's the problem, though. It's not coming from Fox News. It's coming from Tulsi Gabbard. She's just on the platform of Fox News. She's on CNN, MSNBC. You probably still wouldn't believe her. This is where the TDS comes in. But for those of you who are kind of don't want to listen because of Fox News, forget that it's Fox News and understand that this is coming from the director of national intelligence.
Or find it. Okay. What about the Pfizer judges? Because when you look at this seditious conspiracy aimed at overthrowing the U.S. government and an elected president, you have to consider also the black robes. You've got to look at the Pfizer judges. And how about the fact that the judge who gave a slap on the wrist to Kevin Kleinsmith, who was the FBI agent who lied on an official document about Carter Page, who was spied on for a year, that judge is Judge James Boasberg. He's still at his desk, and he's still trying to stop Donald Trump's agenda. So what about the broader group of people that are also involved?
Maria, this is of such historic consequence that it cannot be limited to one or two or three different people. You just outlined the implications and the effects of what actually occurred, and I think you're really putting into a clear picture what we are referring to when we refer to the deep state. It is very far-reaching. These are people who are intent on undermining the will of the American people and trying to ultimately put themselves above our democracy. And this is why it's so important that we continue down this path. We continue to stay very focused. I question the same things that you're asking here. I don't know how it is. Yes, I put my team on this. We've been working on this over the last few months. I've been in this role as Director of National Intelligence for just about 6 months. I don't know what excuse there is for those who supposedly investigated this previously, whether it was Durham or others, that they were not able to put together the dots and ultimately show the truth to the American people. President Trump has delivered a maximum transparency mandate, and this is exactly what we're doing. The American people need to see the truth, and we're going to continue to do that every single day that I'm here.
Equally outrageous was the fact that we had the handwritten notes of John Brennan. I reported on it at the time. The CIA reported to President Obama that the Russians were aware that Hillary Clinton had come up with this idea to blame the Russians and working with Trump to win the election. And we actually saw his handwritten notes. So there's that evidence that, again, all of those people who were supposedly special counsels, independent counsels, blew off, right? Robert Mueller, John Durham.
That's right. I really cannot fathom. There is no rational or logical explanation for why they failed. The only logical conclusion that I can draw in this, Maria, is what you're implying here directly, is that there was direct intent to cover up the truth about what occurred and who was responsible.
I mean, yeah, and then they'd have to walk it back. Like, that's the thing they didn't want to do. Is first of all, they already put the claim out there. They already put the investigation work into it. They're already trying to impeach the man. They did all this work. Imagine to have to go back and tell the American people, whoops, our bad, guys. He's not a Russian agent. Sorry, we just TDS'd out. Whoops-a-daisy. So, yeah, that wouldn't have been the best move. It's kind of like they were too far gone and there was no turning back when it came to that Russia hoax. Like, that's the sad reality of it. But all right, guys, now let's get into CNN because shout out to the left. I mean, they're not letting this Epstein thing go. And you know what? The one time I'm actually shout out to mainstream media. I appreciate you guys for not letting it go and actually taking the initiative to dig deeper into it. Why weren't you doing this under Biden? Who knows? But hey, better late. I mean, look, better now than never, huh? Or better late than never.
And the broad network of.
Let me go ahead and bring this right up here for you guys. All right, Epstein's ex-girlfriend and Trump accuser. Yeah, they're taking it there, guys. They're taking it there. So this is why I say, Trump, release the hard drives, release the evidence all pertaining to Epstein, that the accusers, intelligence relations, all that. Or CNN is going to continue to ride you guys, and they're going to look good doing it.
Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend speaking out tonight. Stacey Williams, a former Sports Illustrated model who dated Epstein in the early 90s, has spent time with both Epstein and Donald Trump together. In one disturbing alleged incident, which Williams went public with last year before the presidential election, Williams says Trump groped her in front of Epstein at Trump Tower in 1993. Here's what she told our Sunland Serfati when she first broke her silence.
The second he was in front of me, he pulled me into him, and his hands were just on me and didn't come off. Then the hands started moving, and they were on the side of my breasts, on my hips, back down to my butt, back up, sort of. Then they were just on me the whole time, and
this reminds me when Trump said, when you got money like me, you can walk up and grab him by the woo. Was she not of age?
Sorry. I froze.
You froze.
Williams also claimed that
Really?
Epstein and Trump looked.
So now you come out about it when you could have came out about it then, but I mean, billionaire showing you some attention. I'm sure you was so frightened
at each other and smiled during the alleged incident, which Williams says she now believes was coordinated and, quote, some kind of weird, twisted game. Trump denied Williams's allegations through his campaign at the time, which said in part, quote, it's obvious this fake story was contrived by Kamala Harris's campaign. And Stacey Williams is out front now to speak out for the first time since the uproar.
No, I believe her. I just don't think it's like, hold on, it was a grapey situation. It was kind of just, hey, Trump put the moves on you, you let him do it. He was a billionaire back then. It's so funny though. It is funny because like I'm looking for the ones that were trafficked by Epstein, not a alleged grope victim. Like, no, we already know where that's going, sweetheart. You're around the big money, and we all know how women get when they're around big money. You kind of let these guys do whatever they want. That's on you.
Over Trump's handling of the Epstein case. Stacey, thank you so much for joining us tonight. As you know, Epstein is dominating the news once again, and his relationship with Trump is under scrutiny. While you were dating Epstein, can you tell us how close these two men were?
They were best friends. I dated Jeffrey for a period of more or less, I think about 4 or 5 months. And the only friend that he would mention every time we saw each other or had a phone conversation was Donald. And he would share a lot of anecdotes. I have plenty of anecdotes. And yeah, they were very close, and they were up to no good.
And how did Epstein
up to no good? Like how, sweetheart? Like what did he tell you? It's like, oh, me and Trump, we bought this one little girl together. It was such a great time over there on the island. Like, I'm kind of looking for that. Not, he just said some ambiguous things about him, some anecdotal things. That was it. But we all know they're up to no good. I mean, for all you know, they could have been talking about how they're about to go mess with like foreign models and all that good stuff. We all know Trump was a playboy back in the day. Like that could have been the thing as well. I'm not saying the man was a saint back in the day. There's a reason why he got like 4 or 5 wives.
Talk about Trump. Sort of what was the quality of those anecdotes and how he described him?
Well, there was a time when he mentioned that he had to check in on him because he was unwell and very upset about something that had happened. I remember because he was late to pick me up, and he was explaining why he was late.
They were just, it was such a long time ago, but it was just that was his bro, that was his wingman. It was clearly, I'd hear about Ghislaine and I'd hear about Jeffrey. And I met Ghislaine in his house. She would come wafting in and out the home in New York. So
No,
he
he
was
was
clearly
not.
just someone that he
And
talked.
remember, Trump was never held liable for grape. He was held liable for pretty much what this young lady said, S.A. pretty much, or groping, and with the whole E. Jean Carroll thing. And E. Jean Carroll did the same thing. I mean, it was all good in the moment. You was feeling the man in the moment. Now 20, 30, 40 years later, oh, he groped me, he graped me. Okay, sis, okay. But no, I mean, that's how ABC got sued, by saying Trump was liable for grape. That's why they're paying $15 million, because it was false and defamation.
About all the time. And again, I met Jeffrey the second time and we started dating based on the reintroduction that happened at the Plaza Hotel at a Christmas party in 1992 that Donald Trump threw. And they were very, very close.
So let's talk about this incident, alleged incident in 1993, where you say that Trump groped you in front of Epstein. I do want to note that CNN has spoken to 3 friends of yours who confirmed that you told them about this alleged incident over past decades. Can you tell me more about what happened that day, and particularly how Trump and Epstein interacted?
Yeah, and before I get into the details of what happened, which, obviously I told you guys and I've shared with multiple outlets, the specifics of the assault that happened, I want to point out that I was polygraphed before I did all this by one of the most renowned examiners in the world. Michael Wolff has hundreds of hours of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein where Jeffrey confirmed to Michael what the two of them did to me long before I came out and told you all of this. So those are 2 critical data points that you need to have. And now I'll walk you through what happened. I was dating Jeffrey. He was always talking about Donald. It was his bestie and everything. And he was joking about how Donald thought I was hot and Donald thinks I'm this or whatever, wants to talk to you. And he was telling me this as we were taking a walk down Fifth Avenue one day. And he said, let's stop in and.
Why is he talking to you about why his friend thinks you're hot if you're supposed to be his girlfriend? Who's to say this lady wasn't complicit or wasn't one of Epstein's, hoes? I'm gonna say it straight what it is. If Epstein's a pimp, this is one of the hoes that he's selling. Like, why is he talking to you like you're one of his hoes that he's selling or, prostituting out? Like, oh, well, Trump likes you and all this good stuff. I mean, I ain't never walked to my girl, any girl I've dated, and been like, hey, one of my friends like you and you kind of want to see you later on. Like, huh? Like, what?
See him at his offices. So we went up to his office in Trump Tower, and within a couple of minutes, Donald was outside of his door, and his hands were all over me. They were on my breasts, they were on my butt, they were on, my hips, up and down, while the 2 of them just kept having a normal conversation. I don't remember exactly what was in the conversation.
And that's wild. Like, lady, you're pretty much saying that your boyfriend sat there and watched you get groped by another man? And you just sat there, la-di-da-di-da. Oh, everything's okay? So many holes in the story. I mean, what? So, all right. Your Epstein's girlfriend. Trump walks up to you, pretty much, grabs you by the pussy, pretty much. Come over here, young lady. And everything's cool. Epstein pretty much just watched his girl get yoked up and groped in front of him. Nah, sis. Nah. Come on now. Use one of Epstein's girls on the payroll. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it all the way 100.
Again, this was, we're talking 90. This is 93 now. It was something about, it was irrelevant. It was like, oh, Stacey's career's on fire. She just did Sports Illustrated again, blah, 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 blah. And they were back and forth, smiling and grinning and carrying on a conversation while Donald ran his hands all over me. And
you didn't do
when that happens in broad daylight in someone's office and an assistant's walking back and forth, you're in shock. If it happens in a dark alleyway, right, you defend yourself. But when it's hidden in its brazenness like that.
Hidden, I mean, what? Lady, It's more of a reason for you to defend yourself in that moment while it's public. Why would you wait until you were in a dark alley by yourself to start defending yourself? Why would, like, actually, you should defend yourself in both situations. You should have stepped away from Donald Trump like, yo, who the hell are you to touching me? Epstein, ain't I yo? Like, bro, isn't this supposed to be your girl? Like, what's going on? Like, that was up to you. Like, what's going on here? Like, you should have lashed out in the middle of that office. I'm pretty sure 90% of girls watching this would agree with me and saying that, yo, you should have acted a fool in that office. Start kicking and screaming, hollering. Like, yeah, you're going to be more heard and it'd been more of a scene that could be more publicly documented.
Which is Donald Trump's forte. You know, you go into shock. So I froze and it was over and very quickly. It was a few minutes. And then we got back in the elevator and Jeffrey's energy had changed. He was like seething. He was enraged. He wouldn't make eye contact with me. And then we got out on the street on Fifth Avenue and he looked at me and he just started yelling at me saying, why did you let him do that? And he was so enraged. And then I remember thinking like, why did I?
So now you're making it make sense. So what? This makes no sense. So you're pretty much saying he just let it happen all in front of him. Then when y'all walked out, you're like, whoa, how could you let him do that to me? Like, you embarrassed me. What? Bro, no. I'm sorry. This doesn't even sound right. It's failing the sniff test, guys, for sure.
I felt like I was coming back into my body at that moment. And I was
Coming
confused.
back into your body.
So that's the story of the assault.
And I do just want to note, Stacey, that Trump has denied these allegations, which you are well aware of. And I know at times you've referenced videos, which we have not confirmed the existence of. But I know that you felt that this was coordinated later when you look back on it. What was it that made you draw that conclusion?
Well, I was sort of known in the industry for being somewhat combative with, you know, photographers who would expose themselves or do inappropriate things, or even guys who would.
No, sis. You can't be this she-hero. Like, but I was a soldier out there on the field protecting women from getting groped and all that. But then you over there getting groped in public by Donald Trump. It's like your story doesn't add up. You can't be the victim and the liberator at the same damn time.
Would touch or harass on the streets, and Jeffrey was aware of that, and I think he was excited. I think the gist in my mind, given what he knew and the way it played out, was, hey, I'm going to deliver this person to you who's actually not going to let you get away with what you do. And I did, because I froze. Like I said, when it's hidden in its brazenness like that, you freeze.
But you wouldn't. So you froze in a public area, but you're telling me you would have lashed out in a dark alley somewhere? You're telling me that he was your boyfriend. Donald Trump just pulled up in front of him, started groping you, and he just let that happen. You walked out. Then he finally addresses it. And like I said, this was all done in an office with people apparently walking by. Like, all right, okay.
And, he's a master of that. So, I mean, he talked about it, right? He talked about pussy grabbing on the Access Hollywood tape.
And tonight, if you're aware, President Trump has filed this libel lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal over its reporting that there was this note bearing Trump's name as a signature and an outline of a naked woman that was included in a 50th birthday album for Epstein in 2003, a note that also depicted an imaginary conversation between the two men. And part of it reads, quote, Donald saying, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey, yes.
A note that they did not release. They did not release the note at all. They're just pretty much going off this alleged note that's there that we have not seen yet, that could pretty much just be made up. Here's the thing, and I don't even know why Wall Street Journal even played. I mean, first thing, unless you're about to slow roll out the evidence, I mean, this is stupid. Like, it's very dumb what y'all are doing. Like, why say there's a note and not release it so Trump can't say nothing about it? Put him in that corner until he has to release the Epstein files instead of just creating more open speculation. And this is, well, insidious reporting, because you're not even trying to help solve the problem. You're not even trying to help open up the case. You're really just trying to create more open speculation on Trump.
We do come to think of it, Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me that the last time I saw you.
Right.
And then finally, Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Trump called that letter fake. He said it was out of character for him because he never wrote a picture or drew a picture in his life. Wrote a picture, I think he said.
No,
it's not his kind of language. Based on your time with both men, does that sound out of character to you?
What, are you kidding me? I know what they were up to together. It happened to me. I was polygraphed. I have the post-assault postcard with a love note. So I have the receipts. Where are Donald Trump's receipts? Where are they? I know what they're up together, and I know what that means.
I mean, sis, where are your receipts? Everything is hearsay. I mean, if you were actually out here with receipts, you'd be like, no, I got them right here. Start shuffling the papers around. Here it is, Trump's letter to Epstein right here. I took it right out of his book. Like, what is this? Come on now. Y'all reaching. Y'all are reaching with this young lady right now.
It's very clear. It wasn't baking or fishing.
Well, Stacey Williams, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And all right, then. Well, I know some of y'all are a bit upset that I didn't just, believe all women on that one. But let's be real. You got to come with a straighter story than that. A straighter story than that, guys. Especially, coming out this whole Me Too generation. You're going to have to do better than that. All right, guys, let's go to the next one. When the U.S. will feel pain from Trump's tariffs. All right, keep it on the left with CNN.
This law made me ashamed of my country. That was the headline of a recent op-ed in the New York Times written by the former Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers. He was responding to what he described as the cruelty of the cuts to social services contained in Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, which was recently signed into law. And of course, it's not the only economic policy of the Trump administration that could put a strain on the average American. Another recent one is tariffs. Joining me to talk about all this is the former Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers. Larry, welcome. Tell us, tell most people who may not have been following this as carefully as you have, what is the thing that offends you?
And shout out Misfit Supervisor. She says, if the Democrats had proof he was in those files, they would have released them ASAP. But they didn't, did they? Because they don't have shit. And that's the fact of the matter. It's either they don't have nothing or the people who are going to release it had their name on it as well. So there's also that. But like I said, creating all this open speculation, I don't like it in a way because I like it and I don't like it. One, because you're trying to be more, I don't like it because trying to be more salacious towards Trump, but I do like it because it pushed pressure on the administration to release the files. If you want all the slander to stop, then release all credible evidence. Like tomorrow, next day, don't matter. I would like it done by the end of the week, but hey, a man could dream, right?
That upsets you most about this, what is just passed?
So there's numbers and there's stories, Fareed. The numbers are that this is the biggest cutback in the American social safety net relative to a baseline that we've ever had. If you look at the welfare reform bill that was passed during Bill Clinton's presidency, or if you looked at what happened at the beginning of Ronald Reagan's presidency, the cutback here is a much, much larger cutback. Those are the numbers. The stories, which I heard from my daughters who work in medicine in northern New Hampshire, really are harrowing. They're stories of people who used to be able to get rides to the hospital for their dialysis treatments and now won't be.
And guys, let's make sure to support this show with any question, comments, jokes, or disagreements, man. We can't just keep it running off Cuban now. Shout out, sis. You've been holding it down.
Able to. Stories of people who are facing discharge who now will have no place at all to go and hoping for a homeless shelter. Stories of people who needed the kind of intensive care that the hospital can provide but can't get it because all the rooms in the hospital are filled with patients who can't be discharged because there's no Medicaid supported rehab facility. So it's the combination of the numbers and the human impact that have left me very troubled by this legislation. I think we can be better than this as a nation.
And yet, despite these cuts, Larry, it adds trillions of dollars to the debt. We are now running a deficit that is 6.5% of GDP. What do you think? Where does this lead us? Are we going to be able to find markets to fund this kind of deficit spending?
You've touched on what I think is a very important issue that nobody can know the answer to. How long can the world's greatest debtor remain the world's greatest power? And there are all kinds of reasons why people want to invest in the United States, why they want to invest in treasury bonds. So I'm not somebody who's
I mean, biggest consumer market in the world. Most of these companies get their profits. I mean, most of these countries mainly sell into America to get their GDP up and to keep their companies afloat. So, yeah, I mean, we kind of hold the world hostage with our consumerism. Let's be honest here. That's the whole reason why China had to bend the knee. As soon as we start taking away those orders, the whole economy just start crumbling.
A track record of being cry wolf about the budget deficit or the accumulation of debt. But here it is, we're in.
But here's the thing though. People complain about the budget deficit, and I would ask them, okay, now if you want to solve the debt crisis, what are you going to do? Because you can't just raise taxes on the rich or they're going to leave. And then who's going to pay that budget? All right, then. So you have to figure out a way to do enormous government spending cuts while also raising taxes across the board. So kill spending while also increasing government revenue to start paying off on the debt. And a lot of people don't actually want to do that. I mean, they'll criticize the other side for not doing what they agree with, but both sides, in my honest opinion, they don't have the bipartisan support to actually solve cutting the debt, because cutting Medicaid and a lot of these social services is crucial to honestly solving the debt. We spend a lot of money there, especially in the healthcare region. I mean, you guys can complain about military all you want, and I will agree with you, but we also have to also substitute more revenue, which would require higher taxes across the board and not just on rich people. And that's something that a lot of people ain't down with. And I get it. But I do hate when people act like they want to solve the debt just by criticizing the other side plan.
Good times, and we're borrowing at such a heavy rate that our debt is going up much faster than our income in good times when we don't have a major emergency that we have to spend money on. And that's not something we can do forever. And it's the.
You got to remember now, we're betting on growth. Trump is betting on tariffs and the growth of the economy to pay for this. You know, new jobs, new tax revenue, no tax on overtime, generating more sales and all that good stuff. Yeah, like I said, I will be real with you. It is a bet, but it's a bet that has a good projection on it. And we are still in it. Like I said, the big beautiful bill passed this month, guys. We're not even in the first month of it. We're not even in the first 3 months to actually assess what it's going to do to the market. You know, the first three months, we can actually get through a quarter in the market and we can really assess what the big beautiful bill effects are. So we're still in the beginning stages of this. So I'd ask you guys to be patient.
Responsibility of those who are stewards of our country to try to put things on a more sustainable path.
So, Larry, you look at the deficits, you look at the tariffs and the chaotic way in which they've been put in place. And, you know, they're now, we're at very substantial tariffs, much higher than Smoot-Hawley on average, highest in a century. Why has there not been much of an effect on the economy or the stock market so far?
You know, there has been, Fareed, economists who've studied populist economic policies. And in a way, that's a description of what we're doing. You follow the short run instincts of large numbers of people. And that means tariffs to protect jobs. That means borrowing to finance spending. That means cutting back long-term expenditures. And what the record, this has been tried a lot in Latin America, in various European countries. And the general experience is that it looks pretty good in the short run and pretty terrible in the medium to long run. And so when you eat your seed corn, you can eat well for a while, but then you have a problem down the road. So yes, I think it is fair to point up.
So now the economists are switching out the argument because they were saying by July we'd be seeing crazy prices and all that crazy stuff. So the economists, like I said, are changing their story, going like, well, let's wait for the long run now. Let's wait for further on down the line and let's see if it happens. And you know what? I agree with that statement. I do. Because it's they should have told you that in the first damn place. But hey, they didn't expect to be this wrong. So now they got to switch their story up and be like, oh, wait, no. Actually, we got to look at the long run because we were short about the prediction on the short run. But trust me, guys, we're right about the long run. And you know what? Let's see.
That things have been less grave so far than many expected. But I think to take away a sense that all's well and that these policies are going to produce success, I think that would be very much a premature conclusion. And we all need to be.
Guys, if you think anybody's economic forecast is 100% correct, I mean, then you have never studied economics. I mean, trust me, the economy is a very mysterious thing. Like, yes, you can put forecast on it, but rarely will you be 100% right. Like, let's be honest. So any economist who's saying, oh, I know for sure that this is going to be a bad result in the end is lying to you. Any economist that's saying, I know for sure this is going to be a good result in the end is lying to you. Everything within a forecast, everything's a projection because who knows what's going to happen within these next 6 to 8 months? Who knows? Like, we might, like I said, before you know, we might discover some things. We might get into a whole nother conflict. Like, who knows? So it's really hard to make certain projections or act like you're knowing the future. It's a pretty arrogant thing to do. But hey, I'm just keeping it fair on both sides by saying, hey, if they're talking too good about it, trust me, they don't know. If they're talking too bad about it, trust me, they don't know.
Watching the data very carefully going forward.
Larry Summers, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's like, shoot, tell me an economist that predicted the economy 100% correct every time. You can't find one. I'll tell you that right now. But all right, guys, let's go ahead and keep it pushing.
New York City, it's the global symbol of capitalism, and it's about to fall to a socialist government in the form of mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani. If you don't live in New York City and don't plan to go there, given Gotham's decline, you may be wondering why this story matters to you. Here's the deal. If Mamdani is able to show coalition building that brings together yuppie whites and non-white voters, you are going to see leftist politics in the United States look a lot less like Bill Clinton and Al Gore and a lot more like AOC and the Zoran. You'll start to see it in Democrat executive committees in your community. All of a sudden, the sensible Democrats who don't want to defund the police or turn your son into a girl are going to be replaced with the likes of this.
We have to continue to elect more socialists.
Oh,
and we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism.
Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires.
To shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now.
Whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee,
it is preferable to what is going on right now. We're going to provide $65 million for funding for gender-affirming care.
I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option.
I mean, he's like a super dem at this point. I mean, socialist ideas, transgender ideology, all that crazy stuff. I mean, super dem.
For produce.
Also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of ceasing the means of production.
Bad ideas and somehow a worse sweater. New York isn't just a city, it's a loud symbol of American exceptionalism. Even Al-Qaeda knew that. New York cranks out mayors like the Kardashians crank out skincare lines, and each somehow manages to be more clownish than the last. I legitimately miss Mayor Michael Bloomberg. He wanted to take away your big gulp, but at least the trains ran on time. After running New York City rather effectively, this is how Bloomberg was treated by his fellow Democrats.
Billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk.
Senator Pocahontas would like to speak to the manager. Enter Zohran Mamdani. Every time I see the name, it feels like I'm summoning some sort of nemesis of Batman.
And shout out to my man Fox Chase says, what up, bitches? And S.E.T. Hey, shout out to my man Fox Chase. Appreciate the support, brother.
The scary part, the Gen Z crowd in New York is eating it up like it's free tofu at a Bernie rally. Yep. Zohran is a state assemblyman from Queens, which sounds impressive until you realize New York has more elected officials than it has rats. Zohran is basically what would happen if AOC's tweets grew legs, put on a scarf, and started yelling about housing justice while sipping a $12 oat milk latte. He's got all the socialist swagger and probably a Spotify playlist that's about 90% NPR podcasts. He's the kind of guy who uses the word neoliberalism in casual conversation, saying things like, this community is being oppressed by the violence of systemic zoning. Zohran's not just here to complain about capitalism, he wants to abolish it. Which makes sense, because if I were a socialist with a Gucci belt living in an apartment my parents paid for, I'd want...
And it's always damn rich kids, bro. I don't get it. It's always the freaking rich kids that like want socialism, that wants like communism. It's always these goddamn rich kids. And I mean, not all of them, but it do tend to, like AOC, Zohran Mamdani, came from very affluent backgrounds. Low-key, mostly white neighborhoods. Predominantly white neighborhoods. Then this man come out of there and want to turn around and tax them. I mean, the betrayal. Okay, I'm just playing. But all right, let's keep it going.
I want to abolish capitalism too. The man tweeted that landlords should not exist. Bro, you live in a city where even the pigeons have landlords. Good luck with that. Let's not forget his grand vision, a city without police, without landlords, without billionaires, also probably without electricity, plumbing, or protein. In a sane world, someone suggesting we abolish the police and all of these things would not be taken seriously. They'd be politely asked to step away from the group project of governance. But in New York City, he's cool. He's visionary.
He's that guy.
He's got a campaign logo that looks like it was designed by Banksy on a sugar high. But here's the punchline. The people who vote for Zohran don't actually want to live in the world he is selling. They just want to tweet about it. They just want a virtue signal. They're keyboard revolutionaries. They want their socialist utopia with Wi-Fi, Whole Foods, and a 4.8 Uber rating. Eric Adams is the current mayor of New York. He's a part-time nightclub enthusiast and has been cosplaying as a centrist ever since his approval ratings started free-falling like Joe Biden on a bicycle. Damn. Is Adams the best option to take on Zohran, or is there a Cuomo resurgence, like a phoenix rising from the ashes? The former New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, lost the Democratic primary in New York. He's stayed in the race to run in the general election as an independent. So who comes out on top in this Big Apple political Hunger Games?
That's crazy. It's like you lost the mayoral election, but you're like, you know what? In sore loser fashion, I'm just going to switch parties so I can run again. In sore loser fashion. But all right, guys, let's get into some controversial things coming out of Israel, because this is getting a bit out of hand, and it's about time I cover this. All right.
Is Israel an unwelcoming place for Christians? A new look into correspondence between U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee and the Israeli government raises questions about whether Christians are being mistreated by Israel. Huckabee alleges that's what's happening. The ambassador sent a letter to the Israeli interior minister accusing Israel of blocking Christian groups from entering the country. As a private citizen, Governor Huckabee personally led Zionist Christians on such tours. Now, Ambassador Huckabee initially met with the government of Israel to plea for the Christians who wanted to come and enjoy the Holy Land. But those pleas were ignored. Now Huckabee is threatening reciprocal punishment against Israel and their visa seekers wanting to come to America. He cited harassment and negative treatment of Christian groups. The nerve of Israel to demand America's weapons and money, but then refuse our touring Christians is astounding. About 3 billion people on the planet Earth tie their faith to the geography around Israel. And I believe everyone needs a little more of the golden rule. Treat others as you would want to be treated. Some will criticize this segment and say that the problem of Christians being harassed in or by Israel is overblown. But it's not me saying it. It's Ambassador Huckabee. Is Ambassador Huckabee an anti-Semite now because he's criticizing the government of Israel? Of course he isn't. I wonder if any voices inside the Israeli government have spoken about Christians being harassed or harmed. Here's Isaac Herzog.
Now, for a long time, I mean, for some reason, since October 7th, there's been huge reports of Christians getting attacked in Israel, spat on in Israel, videos circulating the internet of, Jewish people walking down the street in Israel and taking their time to spit or attack Christians. But I mean, they're friendly to Christians, right?
The president of Israel in 2023.
In recent months, we've seen very serious phenomena towards the Christian denominations in the Holy Land. Our brothers and sisters, Christian citizens, feel attacked in their places of prayer, in their cemeteries, and on the streets.
Yep, they're pretty much desecrating Christian cemeteries. I mean, they bombed the Catholic Church. And I'm like, hey, they're going all out. They're going all out here. And I'm not going to sit here and say that all Israelis hate Christians, but I would ask an Israeli citizen, like, hey, what is this?
Christians in Jerusalem's Old City say they are often harassed, spit on, and even physically attacked by religious Jewish youth.
I view this phenomenon as extreme and unacceptable in any shape or form. This phenomenon needs to be uprooted.
Earlier incidents include the desecration of a Protestant cemetery on Mount Zion, an attack on international Christians during a day of prayer for Jerusalem, and harassment at a Messianic concert in Jerusalem.
We must respect the members of all religions. We've committed to this since the dawn of our existence.
Tell that to the Likud party. They do not care.
This is the most basic commandment of love your neighbor as yourself.
Since that speech, I'm not sure if things have gotten much better for Christians. According to the Times of Israel, quote, Huckabee said he would warn American Christians that their donations are not received warmly, and that tourists should reconsider any plans to visit Israel if the issue is not resolved.
Yeah.
Listen to Ambassador Huckabee.
Because why would you go to Israel walking down with a cross hanging around your neck and some guy spits on you, and then you try to swing on this guy, and then you're getting jumped by a whole bunch of Jews? It's like, God damn. That'd be a terrible way to, like, have a trip to Israel. That'd be a terrible way to go. I mean, they already did it to an American citizen, beat the man for 3 hours straight, then block the ambulance to getting to him.
Closely. He's threatening this messaging. Boycott your next trip to Israel, divest from groups sending donations to Israel, and sanction Israel by denying visas to their citizens who want to come to the United States. In just a few years, we've gone from Ambassador Huckabee leading Zionist Christian tour groups in Israel to threatening to lead the BDS movement, the boycott, divest, and sanction movement. Congress has passed about a gazillion BDS resolutions, all at the urging of AIPAC. Will AIPAC now target Ambassador Huckabee? Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene blew the whistle on AIPAC on this program with Vish Burra.
I think organizations like AIPAC and Christians United for Israel should register under the law as foreign agents because they are lobbying on behalf of Israel.
Also unresolved tonight is an investigation.
Shout out Marjorie Taylor Greene because 6 members of Congress just voted to cut military aid to Israel, and she was one of them. She was definitely one of them. But let's be real, she might get primaried out of her position just cause.
Into the killing of Saif Moussalet. He was an American born in Florida. He was surrounded for 3 hours and beaten to death. There's no suggestion that he provoked the attack or that this was in any way in self-defense. The Times of Israel also took note of our coverage on this program. What the Times pays close attention to is the shift in how right-aligned media covers Israel. It would have been unheard of to have Israel as such a driving force for division just 10 years ago. Now, it doesn't seem Israel likes the criticism. So some who aren't intelligent enough to speak about these issues with nuance simply say that any criticism of the government of Israel is anti-Semitic. That's stupid people talk. It isn't anti-Semitic to criticize the government of Israel any more than it isn't anti-American to say that Biden's presidency was a silver alert. It seems Israel's goodwill with the world has eroded very meaningfully. Christians blocked from the United States, Americans murdered in Judea and Samaria. We don't think it's a tenable position for Israel to say to our fellow countrymen, send us your money, send us your weapons, but don't send us your Christian tour groups or Arab Americans.
I mean, send us your money, send us your weapons, and we'll send you more problems from Middle Eastern countries. I mean, that's the real relationship right there. I mean, we'll send you weapons and money, and you'll send us problems with Middle Eastern countries. Like, oh, such a beautiful relationship. But all right, now let's get over to interview with Karen Bass. LA mayor, let's go.
Has been on the front lines as her city has faced the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. I spoke to Mayor Bass at a restaurant in a predominantly Latino neighborhood in East LA, and we began our conversation with how she says ICE enforcement has sent shockwaves through her city.
Los Angeles is a city of immigrants. 3.8 million people, and about 50% of our population is Latino. And so when the raid started, fear spread. The masked men in unmarked cars, no license plate, no real uniforms, jumped.
Unmasked men in like unlicensed car. I mean, it does sound like, I don't know, undercover police. Sounds like your usual procedure.
Jumping out of cars with rifles and snatching people off the street, leading a lot of people to think maybe kidnappings were taking place. How do you have masked men who then say, well, we are federal officials with no identification?
Well, you know what the administration will say to that. They'll say they're in danger, that there have been threats, that there has been doxing, and that's the reason they have the masks on.
Yeah, and here's the thing. They've done their investigating. They're not just walking up to these people at random. No, it's either that guy is an illegal himself, or he hangs around a whole bunch of illegals, or he's hiding them. Like, that's probably going to be a reason why ICE confronts you about some things. So let's be real. And yes, people are catching these ICE officers without their mask on, and they are, well, doxing them and their family members and all that crazy stuff. And they're harassing these people.
And that they say there is some ID.
Well, let me just tell you, we have a Los Angeles Police Department that has to deal with crime in this city every single day. And they're not masked. They stay here. The masked men parachute in, stay here for a while, and leave. And so you enter a profession like policing, like law enforcement. I'm sorry, I don't think you have a right to have a mask and snatch people off the street.
You have gotten about half of the National Guard are now leaving, but that leaves 2,000, 2,500 still here?
None of the National Guard needs to be here. There is nothing happening in our city now. There's no protests going on. And when they were assigned here, their mission was to guard 2 buildings. Why do you need 4,000 troops for 2 buildings? They've had to leave their families, their jobs, their education. For what? So that they could participate in performance art? Because that's what was going on here.
One of the things you talk about is why now? Why did they do it? Why did they raid MacArthur Park? You became a sanctuary city right after Donald Trump was elected. So do you believe that is one of the reasons your city is being targeted?
No, I really don't, because our policies...
No, the reason their city is being targeted because of one of the biggest perpetrators of having illegal immigrants or just letting illegals flood their city. Yes, they're one of the top sanctuary cities in America. That's why they're being cracked down first. I mean, and trust me, New York City's going to be next, and so is Chicago. Don't worry, we're going to work our way down the list. But we're going to start with the number one perpetrator, L.A.
Have been in place actually 45 years. What we did a few months ago was updating a policy, but it wasn't a brand new policy. And frankly, these policies exist all over the country.
You had several days of pretty serious protests. And I think when you look at the images from that, from those protests, there was clearly some violence. There was peaceful protests, but there was clearly, they were throwing rocks at police officers. There was a Molotov cocktail. They would throw concrete bottles at police officers.
And that was terrible. And I certainly called for any level of violence for people to be held accountable. If they were arrested, they needed to be held accountable to the full extent of the law. It did not warrant military intervention. It did not warrant the Marines coming into our city with basically no real mission, but just to show a force. Los Angeles is 500 square miles. The disturbances took place in maybe 2 square miles.
Where are those troops? What are they doing?
Well, the National Guard still has the same mission. If you drive by our 2 federal buildings, you will see them standing out there. But there's nothing going on in those federal buildings. So in my opinion, we are misusing taxpayers' dollars, and we are misusing our troops.
I mean, yeah, you definitely did misuse taxpayer dollars when you took $17 million away from your fire department. And look how that worked out for you. So trust me, I mean, y'all are not good with taxpayer dollars. Let's be honest here. But I know what y'all really good at. Y'all real good at running away taxpayers. I mean, hey, good job.
When you look at the raids and the deportations, just tell me who you think should be deported. Is it just people who've been convicted of crimes? You have, almost 1 million undocumented workers in Los Angeles. What should happen to those people?
So let me just say that because we are a city of immigrants, we have entire sectors of our economy that are dependent on immigrant labor. We have to get the fire areas rebuilt. We're not going to get our city rebuilt without immigrant labor. And it's not just the deportation. It's the fear that sets in when raids occur, when people are snatched off the street. And I know you are aware that even people who are here legally, even people who are U.S. citizens have been detained. Immigrants who have their papers and were showing up for their annual immigration appointment were detained when they showed up doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing.
So they should not be deported?
I don't think
they should stay.
Well, this is what
1 million undocumented?
No, let me just tell you. What I think we need is comprehensive immigration reform. I served in Congress for 12
Comprehensive immigration reform. Nobody's trying to get down with just letting a whole bunch of illegals gain amnesty. We're not down with that. So y'all need to figure something else out. Like, because we're not going to give all these illegals amnesty and call it immigration reform. Like, you guys are tripping. And I do see that's what a lot of Dems are asking for or hoping for.
years.
And didn't get it.
And didn't get it. And why didn't we get it? I mean, after I left, there was an immigration reform bill that had bipartisan support. This was during the campaign. The president decided he didn't want to have it happen because he didn't want immigration reform to happen where he didn't take credit for it.
But back to that question of undocumented workers. I'm thinking back, and a border control agent once said to me, as we saw migrants during a very bad time for so many migrants coming across when Joe Biden was president, and you know that, just massive numbers. And I said, do you feel bad for these people? And the border agent said, you know what, I do, but I also know they're cutting in line in front of those people who want to do it legally in the right way.
Let me just tell you that the people that make that trek, many of whom walk from Central America and even South America.
So are you freaking serious, lady? Are you really about to sit there and defend these people for breaking our law over the people who are defending it? Well, because these guys had to go through dangerous terrain, get trafficked in by the cartel. What are you trying to say? They deserve to be here more than the guys who are waiting in line the right way. So he pretty much saying that, no, guys, get out of line and go ahead and take the illegal, dangerous route where you could be victimized by the cartel and come in here instead, because, you know, we're going to respect you for taking the dangerous route and we're going to put you in the back of the line for taking the legal route. Do you hear yourself, lady?
Up to our border, risk their lives. I don't believe that all of these people are sitting at home dreaming of coming to Los Angeles. They're coming here out of desperation.
Look, go back to Joe Biden again.
Oh, wow.
Okay, there
Well,
was hundreds of thousands of people crossing that border.
Right.
When you look at that border today, is there anything good you think the administration has done in these 6 months at the border?
Well, I will heap praise on the administration for the first 6 months in Los Angeles with the fires. If you ask me, is there anything that they have done good in terms of immigration? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that the viewpoint has been punitive, has been let's make it as miserable as possible so that these people don't come.
Are you having conversations with the Trump administration about this?
I have not recently. I have put in a request and I hope to. I will always be open to a conversation.
So even with the Guard here, they've had no conversations.
I want to work with the administration to solve this problem. We have the World Cup.
I mean, lady, I don't know about that. You just pretty much saying that you think that illegal immigrants deserve to be here more than the legal ones because they went through a more dangerous route. I mean, ain't that the most blackest shit I've ever heard? I ain't gonna lie. It's kind of like kind of what they do to the more well-to-do black guys and the hood black guys. Well, you can't speak on black problems because you ain't been in the hood. You ain't been in them trenches. Sorry, I'm about to go a little too far with the rhetoric, but y'all get my point. Shout out Big Wave Dave. He says all the illegals also fund the cartel by coming here. Yes, all the illegals also fund the cartels by coming here. That should be reason enough to stop them. Yes, like I think they forgot that, Big Wave Dave, and who they're supporting. You're supporting cartel business. You're supporting cartel human smuggling, and you're also supporting the raping of women as well. Because what do you think they do to some of these women? And here's the thing: they take some of these women and children. They don't even make it here to America. What the hell you think happened to them? But I mean, according to Karen Bass, you know, they should be go ahead. We shouldn't stop it. We should let them take that risk and then give them a ribbon when they cross the damn border illegally. Like, good job. You survived the cartel, the water, and the alligators. I mean, you survived the coyotes, man. Look, here, toss them a green card. Like, what is that what y'all want?
In 11 short months here. We have the Olympics and Paralympics coming in 3 short years. I know that these games are very important to the president, and I look forward to working with him. And we have an extreme difference on this issue, but there's many issues for us to work on, and I will continue trying to outreach to the administration and hope that at some point they'll be responsive.
How does this end? How do you see the next 6 months, the next 2 years for immigrants in your city?
Well, I am just hoping that this reign of terror ends. I'm hoping that the military leaves because they were never needed here to begin with. I'm hoping that we can get back to normal. I'm hoping that the next time I come to this restaurant that it will be filled because people won't be afraid to come here.
That's your fault. That is literally your fault, ma'am. It's like it's nobody else's fault but yours. And like, let's be real, LA already had problems. It's getting dirtier. The crime is out of control. The illegals are everywhere. It has nothing to do with Trump bringing in the National Guard, lady. It has everything to do with your poor leadership. Excuse me, guys.
We turn now to Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Good morning, Madam Mayor.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay. Glad you can hear me. We are looking at immigration issues 6 months in. You have had such a firsthand experience out in LA, given the deployment of U.S. troops. The president ordered the early release of nearly half of the National Guard from LA. Have they departed yet? What are the remaining ones doing?
Well, I believe they've departed, but they were never needed in the first place. And the remaining ones are doing what they were doing all along, which is essentially protecting 2 federal buildings, one of which in Westwood, where there never has been a big protest against the immigration raids. This is just such an incredible misuse of not only taxpayers' money, but of the young people who are in the National Guard, who've had to leave their families, their jobs, and their education for this deployment that is completely unnecessary. 4,000 troops, my understanding is most of their time has been spent in complete boredom, playing video games, and essentially waiting around because, again, 4,000 deployed and about 200 actually used.
The White House, of course, argues they deployed them because there was interference with the operations of law enforcement in carrying out some of the roundups. There are still enforcement actions by ICE taking place. You have
Oh man, so ignore all the footage coming out of LA and all that good stuff. Guys, the National Guard wasn't doing anything. They were just over there playing video games, getting their Call of Duty in, trying to get in on that new GTA. It's like they wasn't doing anything, guys, but just playing video games. It's like, okay, Karen Bass.
Talked about your objections, as you described them, to masked men, unmarked cars, drawing guns, snatching people off the street. You filed a Freedom of Information request to, quote, know who these masked men are. Why, though, is their identity important to you? Do you plan to prosecute them?
Well, no, let me just explain.
No, you plan to try to get them doxxed and get them harassed, and you're trying to get ICE to back down off. And that's the crazy thing, because this is intimidation by the left. It's like you guys want them to remove their masks. You can dox them, intimidate them not to do their job out of fear of their family. That's sick. That's pretty damn sick, guys.
Because you have people who are literally walking down the street, sitting at bus stops, are individual vendors selling fruit on the street. These masked men pull up in unmarked cars and jump out of the cars with rifles and detain people. So for the average citizen, it looks like it's a violent kidnapping. So you should never have that. They don't identify themselves. And furthermore, to your previous guest, how on earth do they know that they're a threat when they're just chasing random people through parking lots, at Home Depots, going to car wash?
Lady, are you slow? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Lady, are you retarded? Because they only do that if there's been an investigation done. They're not just kicking in. They're not going door to door. ICE is not going door to door, kicking in businesses or anything like that to find illegals. They've been doing an investigation. They've been staking out these spots for a while. They found one illegal, follow them and see if they can lead them to more illegals. And then they go out there and make an arrest or a raid. And because of the way the American public is viewing them, talking about you Dems, they have to mask up and do things a bit more covert because nobody can trust you guys not to get in the way of it.
And rounding up people. It's difficult to get your car washed in Los Angeles now because most of the car washes, the employees won't come to work out of fear that a raid will take place.
Well, the acting director says that his agents, some of them fear that their families will be retaliated against. And that's why they are covering their faces, that they do wear markings for the agencies that they work with. How do you respond?
Well, first of all, let me just tell you that the masked men are not from Los Angeles. And so how their families could be retaliated against. And then what is that to say to local law enforcement?
Why would, ma'am, a lot of these guys are having to pull from red states to avoid them, so they can, be masked, not masked. And when you guys dox them, well, you're doxing them in a conservative, city, state, doesn't really matter. They're not going to have to worry about that. But let's say that as some of these ICE officers who come from a more liberal or politically mixed cities, you're putting them in danger. Yes. So I'll be honest with you. I would not want no ICE agents that live in LA or that live anywhere near LA to be in these raids. Because if you get doxxed, Lord knows they are going to harass you, your family, and your friends.
Los Angeles Police Department, none of whom are ever masked, who always identify themselves and even hand someone a business card. So that makes absolutely no sense at all. And I don't know, but I have a hard time believing that the woman selling pineapples on the corner is going to attack an ICE agent.
And shout out Misfit Supervisor. She says illegals don't identify themselves when they get here. So why should the cops who arrest them? Oh my God, these people makes me so infuriated. I promise you, same here, sis, because ain't no way. It's just like, come on, lady. And it's like, what? Like, it's crazy how we have all these rules for our cops and American citizens, but we don't have anything, no standards for illegals. Like this lady literally said that, well, since they're crossing over illegally and that's a harder journey, they should be let in over the legal ones who are waiting in line obeying our laws. It's like, where did she get this from? Well, where does this mindset come from? Like, how far do you have to drink the Kool-Aid? Because I ain't gonna lie, guys, that's it right there. You know what? I gotta give it to the lady. I ain't did this in a while. You know what? That's a 5 out of 5 Kool-Aid pack. 5 out of 5. All right, guys. She drank the Kool-Aid. She drank way too much of it. And because she's black, I mean, I guess the great Kool-Aid seems a bit stereotypical, but hey, it is what it is.
And then when he says that there's identification, the problem is many of these men are in plain clothes with vests on that say police. It looks like something that they could have gotten online. I think it's really important to point out the extreme nature of the randomness. And, Holman has said, he's mentioned a number of criteria for why they stop people. One of the points of criteria is physical appearance. Los Angeles is 3.8 million people, and about 50% of our population is Latino. So I guess that means 50% of Los Angeles could be possible suspects in an immigration raid.
Well, Tom Holman.
No, because if they won, I mean, let's be real, if they're an American citizen, we'll find out. I mean, they better have their ID or they better know their social security number off the top of their head. And even if they don't, we'll find a way to identify them and then they'll be released because they're a citizen. But if they're not, then I mean, hey, gloves off.
Tom Holman has said physical description cannot be the sole factor for reasonable suspicion, but things like location, occupation, physical appearance add up, particularly if a person runs.
I'm weak. So yeah, he's Mexican. I had somebody try to speak to him. He don't speak English. He works at a construction site that's known for hiring illegals. Yeah, let's get them, boys. Let's go ahead and get these guys. I mean, hey, it makes sense to me.
Away, or if there's a tattoo or something. You don't seem to believe that.
Location, sitting at a bus stop, walking down the street, selling fruit. No, I do dispute that. Absolutely. And, again, the National Guard should have never been deployed in the first place. We did not ask for them. This is the federal seizure of power from a governor. Deploying the National Guard when the National...
And shout out to my man BTK, says never, ever vote for any Democrats. They're traitors. Well, damn. Oh, hit y'all across the board with that one. I mean, the way this lady is sounding is a bit treasonous. It's like, whoa, you have no respect for the immigration laws. You just don't care.
National Guard were not even needed. We had protests. At the end of the peaceful protest, there absolutely was some violence and some looting and vandalism. We brought that completely under control. The troops have never been involved in crowd control, never involved in the protest. They have been guarding a building. Our police department and our sheriff's department are the ones that brought the protests when it devolved into violence under control. We never needed the National Guard in the first place. This is a political stunt, a terrible misuse of taxpayers' dollars.
There's more we could talk about here, but I want to ask you about fires because we are now officially in fire season. It was just 6 months ago we saw those blazes in LA. You fired the then fire chief for, you said, a failure to prepare. But you still don't have a permanent fire chief in that role. Isn't that a problem? Are you prepared?
No, I don't think that that's a problem at all. Our interim fire chief has 40 years of experience. In fact, he had just recently retired. I called him in out of retirement.
No, you fired the last one because she said she exposed Karen Bass for pretty much like, hey, she cut $17 million from the fire department. And now look at the situation. And it's funny, Karen Bass fired her for that. Yes, the head of the fire department. Now they got a new one who's going to shut the hell up when she tells them.
During the fires, he was doing the emergency operations center. So he stepped in, didn't miss a beat by taking over the fire department. And we are prepared. We do know that it's fire season.
So is your plan to keep him in place? Since you brought him out of retirement and put him in an interim basis?
I'm sorry. No, we're doing a national search, and he is certainly open to apply. But the nation's second largest city needs to make sure that we search the nation for the best talent. And I'm sure that there will be people in the department that apply, but we want to cast the net wide. We did the same type of search for our police chief.
Okay.
And all right, guys, now let's get over to the geopolitical side of things. And it's going to be a fun geopolitical hour. And then we're going to go ahead and do the Mehdi Hassan, one progressive versus 20 far-right conservatives. And look, I don't know where the hell they found these far-right conservatives, but they were probably like the worst debaters I have ever seen. And I will give it to Mehdi Hassan. I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it for you guys. Like, he was kind of cooking these guys. Like, it was absolutely insane how terrible these guys were at defending their points. But hey, it's like, you know, the guys that they show on Jubilee are kind of like the low level of the no, let me not say that. Let me not say that. All right, guys, let's just get right into the geopolitical hour. Let's go ahead and start off with a tech segment, because these Tesla robots, guys, yeah, they're getting out of hand.
Moving on, Elon Musk's humanoid robot just got a lot more human.
And Tesla's Optimus, first seen folding laundry and playing rock, paper, scissors, has now learned a new party trick: serving popcorn. In a video shared on X, the robot is seen filling a bag of popcorn without spilling a single kernel, then handing it over with a thumbs up and a wave.
Ready to serve you some popcorn or answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Hey, Optimus.
I mean, I would still hire a hot woman instead of a Tesla bot. I'll be real with you. I mean, like, I feel like I'd sell a lot more popcorn with beautiful women than a, futuristic Tesla bot. I don't know. I'm willing to test that out.
Where are you?
According to Grok, the location was the soft opening of the Tesla diner and supercharger station on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood.
Musk, meanwhile, had a simple message that this will become normal in a few years. But Tesla's robotics journey hasn't been smooth. From its debut in 2021 to a prototype in 2022 and a new timeline for commercial sales in 2026, Optimus is still a work in progress. At Tesla's Me Robot event last year, most demos were still remote controlled, proving full autonomy isn't here yet. But popcorn or not, Optimus is getting closer to Musk's vision, where robots could soon mow your lawn, walk your dog, or even babysit the kids.
I don't know about that. But all right, though, guys, let's get right into it. And shout out to my man Green Bean. He says, if they run, if they run, they're illegal. If they don't run, well, they're well-trained illegals. I'm done. He's damn. Shout out to my man Green Bean for that one. All right, guys. Ukraine, Zelensky proposed a face-to-face peace talk with Russia. I know, all that tough talk, Zelensky. What happened? Well, guys, let's see where it went.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has proposed a new round of peace talks with Russia. His call for a ceasefire came just hours after Russian airstrikes killed at least 3 people.
The negotiation dynamics need to be intensified. We must do everything possible to achieve a ceasefire. The Russian side must stop avoiding decisions, prisoner exchanges, the return of children, and end to the killings. A meeting at the leaders' level is needed to secure a lasting peace truly. Ukraine is ready for such a meeting.
Rory Challens has more on this from Kyiv.
President Zelensky is proposing talks with the Russian side this coming week and says that he is open to meeting with Vladimir Putin face to face, that the momentum of the negotiations must be stepped up. Now, it's interesting to put this together with comments made by Zelensky's spy chief, Kirilo Budanov, a couple of weeks ago. When asked about the prospect of peace by the end of the year, he said, yes, it's realistic to think this. No, it would not be difficult to achieve, but it would take at least 3 sides, the Ukrainians, the Russians, and the United States, and we will get to this position. But Zelensky has offered talks face-to-face with Putin several times before, most recently at the beginning of June, when the Russian president said there was nothing to talk about. And he also offered early in May, and again, the Russian leader said no, that he wasn't going to come and meet Zelensky in Istanbul. So perhaps Zelensky isn't hoping for much more this time round either. But his main audience at the moment is not Putin. It is, of course, Donald Trump in the US White House. And by positioning himself, Zelensky, as open to peace at all times, he's hoping that he can show that it is.
Well, due to that rare earth mineral deal, he's kind of made himself an important piece of Trump's plan that Trump's not going to really willingly let go because of Russia. And it does seem like Russia is trying to go for the complete takeover of Ukraine because he doesn't trust NATO to stop interfering. So it does look like we're kind of waiting for Putin to run out of steam or for his economic, or well, it's either this. It's either somehow, some way, Ukraine wins this war. I mean, I don't know how you see it, or Russia just gives up on the war because it's destroying their economy, which it is. But yeah, I just don't see any way that Ukraine can honestly win the war and take back land. I do see where they can get a peace deal and concede land, but not win a war and gain back land. All right, guys, let's get right on to the next story. All right, so let's see here. Israeli-Gaza war, dozens killed in Gaza by Israeli gunfire as people flee.
In a top story, Gaza Civil Defense Agency said Israeli forces opened fire on crowds of Palestinians trying to collect humanitarian aid in the war-torn Palestinian territory, killing 93 people and wounding dozens more. The agency reported that 80 people were killed as truckloads of aid arrived in the north. 9 others were reported shot near an aid point close to Rafah in the south, where dozens lost their lives just 24 hours earlier. Meanwhile, 4 were killed in the south near another aid site in Khan Yunis. The UN World Food Programme said its 25-truck convoy carrying food aid encountered massive crowds of hungry civilians which came under gunfire near Gaza City soon after it crossed from Israel and cleared checkpoints. The United Nations said that civilians were starving and needed an urgent influx of food and medical supplies.
Man, need it so bad they can't even wait. Jesus.
The large crowds of displaced Palestinians were seen receiving a few ladles of soup in Gaza's Nusayrat camp in the center of the strip as health officials warned of a growing hunger crisis. The Gaza Health Ministry said that at least 71 children had died of malnutrition during the war and 60,000 others were suffering from symptoms of malnutrition. Later on Sunday, it said 18 people have died of hunger in the past 24 hours. Israel has rejected accusations that it is obstructing aid deliveries to Gaza, attributing the shortages to alleged theft by Hamas, a claim the group denies.
Damn.
Palestinians were also seen carrying their belongings and fleeing the west of Deir al-Balah after the Israeli military told residents and displaced people to move south immediately. Israeli military Arabic language spokesperson Avichai Adrai had earlier warned the people in the area, saying that Israel was expanding its activities against Hamas around Deir al-Balah, where it has not operated before.
I mean, they're about to start bombing there.
They threw leaflets at us and we don't know where we are going and we don't have shelter or anything and the place we were sitting in doesn't cause any harm to anyone. What is happening is pressure on us and we are walking and we don't know where we are going.
Meanwhile, activists on board the Freedom Flotilla coalition ship Handala have set sail from southern Italy for Gaza in what they say as an attempt to break a long-standing Israeli blockade and deliver humanitarian aid. The FCC has said that it aims to end the blockade of Gaza by sailing vessels stocked with aid to the enclave. Several Freedom Flotilla vessels have...
And all right, now let's see what's going down in Syria with the Druze, the Syrians, and the Israelis. I know, 3 parties that are majorly involved. All right, let's get right into it.
Jeramana is a Druze majority district in Damascus. Tensions from recent fighting in the south of the country is also felt here. Rabi is a Druze community leader who actively supported post-Assad transition. But he says the government has promised a lot, while so far delivering little.
The state bears most of the responsibility for the clashes in the south. The government should be more inclusive in sharing power and work better on the transitional justice.
Hundreds of people are confirmed dead and tens of thousands displaced in Syria's southern Sueda province. Fighting there has pitted Druze and Bedouin communities against each other and also involved government forces. The warring parties announced a fragile ceasefire on Friday, but after days of widespread sectarian violence. Many people here in Damascus say they know.
Hey man, shout out to my man Daniel Castro. He said, sorry I let you down. XRP only up 2x since I posted. Shout out my man Castro. Hey, appreciate the support, man. And shout out to the supporters. Appreciate you guys.
No longer feel safe.
The government should prove by concrete actions that it's not for a certain group, but for all. It must secure the national unity and protect everyone, regardless of their background.
Syria is one of the most ethnically and religiously diverse countries in the Middle East. However, the 14-year civil war disrupted social structures and fractured people's sense of national unity. As a result,
and sadly, this conflict was pretty much started by Israel getting involved in, Syria's conflict with the Druze, which would have been a small conflict, but, Israel's now saying they're protecting the Druze, so now we need to get involved. And once again, they're getting involved with a Middle Eastern conflict that they have no business in. Again. I mean, man, these guys never really learn. All right, guys, let's get into the Mehdi Hassan versus 20 far-right conservatives. Probably, this is irritating. I'm not even going to lie, but don't worry. I will debate for these guys at this point. This is sad.
My family lineage is settlers from the 1500s.
Colonialists.
Yeah.
And let's see of those, about 598 were charged with assaulting or resisting or impeding law enforcement. So, yeah, you guys need to get your facts straight when you talk about, the January 6ers. One, all 1,500 or so of them did not violently attack police. A lot of them were locked up just being on the sidewalk. So, one, get your facts straight and understand who you're talking about. We're not saying that there weren't violent people in there, but when you guys say that all of them were violent, that's an absolute lie. Now, if you want to talk about the ones that actually hurt police and that got pardoned, well, I'm going to be real with you. I blame it on the January 6th committee on not giving people their proper due process. When you just give a shit show like this is what you're going to get. And I'm not saying I support these guys getting pardoned, but I do support the January 6ers as a whole getting pardoned because not all of them committed a crime. Actually, if you even look at the numbers here, less than 1,000 of them committed a crime.
Guilty.
There was also January 6ers in there who got locked up who was trying to help police officers. There's January 6ers that were trying to get people to stop trying to go into the Capitol building. So there were January 6ers who was doing crazy things, who were like that guy was saying, hurting police. And then there was January 6ers who was actually helping police, trying to get them back to their little their police line. When they jumped out in front of the crowd and they went down. Honestly, there were more January 6ers that died than police. More January 6ers that got hurt than police. And that's not saying that the police injuries don't matter. That's just bringing y'all the facts because you guys don't know the full story. Or you don't even know the full, honestly, the full egregiousness of these guys just getting blanket, forced testimony. I would say this, forced sentencing. So they would make these guys admit to crimes that, one, they didn't really commit. Or they just run through the court system. Two, a lot of due process was skirted, and they don't talk about that. A lot of people were held up in jail for years. No court. No, me that my whole life is called into question. If one of my friends that I used to know is a sex offender, my whole life gets called into question at that point. That is not fair. Because to be quite honest with you, you could do that to me. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I went to school with a guy who later got arrested for human trafficking. So pretty much because I used to go to school with a guy for human trafficking, S.E.T supports human traffickers. He's pro-criminal. He's pro-crime. What do you mean, bro? You went to school. You sat at table, bro. You sat at the same lunch table as the man. Y'all was cool back in the day. I know, but who knows he was going to become a human trafficker though? Who'd have knew? But that's a logic that y'all kind of going off of right now.
If it came out tomorrow that one of your friends was a child sex trafficker,
you know what I'd do?
You'd stop being friends with them.
Yes.
Exactly. That's exactly what Trump did, but you're not giving them that credit though. That's the problem. This is kind of like it's turned into a salacious argument because that's exactly what Trump did. Trump did exactly what any reasonable person would do. Like, you're going to disown or you're going to cut all ties because you don't agree with that person's doing. But he did that and you guys don't give him no credit for it. So what's the point of even making this argument if you guys won't even give credit to the fact that he did do exactly what any normal person would have done? Intent does matter because if he's pro-crime, then he has the intent to, proliferate crime. He's pro-crime, right? So you can't say that the intent doesn't matter. The intent most definitely matters, my friend, because you're saying that he's pro-crime, which means he's trying to promote more crime and more criminals. So the intent matters.
Doesn't matter?
No, he's pro-crime and pro-criminal.
No, but that's a big indictment to say.
Bro, yeah, I mean, your intent would have to be that you're trying to promote crime and proliferate it. There's your intent right there. So if you're saying that he's pro-crime, you're saying that the only reason he pardoned those January 6ers was to promote crime in the United States. That's your argument right there. There's your intent. He's giving you the argument of, well, what happened if it was to, I don't know, bring the USA closer together, which I'm be real with you. I agree with Ahmedi. I doubt it was for that. I doubt it. But there's that intent. If you're saying that the intent doesn't matter, then he's damn near admitting that this is a bad faith argument. You're not willing to hear anything but that Trump is pro-crime. People, he imprisoned, and he didn't even imprison. Dude's back out in the street. He's out with his wife. I forgot the guy, Khalil something. I'm trying to remember his last name, but I know his first name is Khalil. So this guy Khalil was out there protesting on campus for the Palestinians. Now, due to the fact that he was protesting against the Palestinians, some of these protesters got a little bit radical towards Jewish students and they was intimidating them. Due to those bad actors that were part of his protest, they black-bagged him because he's the main orchestrator of the protest. They took him in and they interrogated him to find out if he is working for, well, some, I don't know, Qatar, Hamas, Saudis, they gave him, they was briefing him. They found out that he wasn't. He was just executing his freedom of speech and his right to protest, and they let him go. But the reason why they kind of took him into custody, is because his protests were getting Jewish students harassed. And remember, freedom of speech can only go so far. Once you go past that defamation or inciting violence upon people, that's where it stops. We understand that, right? Okay, then. I was like, Mahmoud Khalil shouldn't have been in prison without really proper, well, I would say without the proper, honest revealing of evidence. I remember, what was it? Caroline Levitt kind of pissed me off with that whole debacle because she came out there saying, I have this pamphlet that he was passing out to students and it's just so anti-Semitic. I just can't even show you. And I was like, sis, you're literally like locking this man up over what he's been saying on campus. I don't know what he's been saying. I ain't been looking at the videos, but you're telling me there's a pamphlet that you're not willing to show us? Yeah. That's where I got suspicious of of this proceeding, because I'm like, yo, if you can't show us how his free speech is getting, I don't know, like causing defamation or harming students, then he shouldn't be locked up. But like I said, they were going off the premise of that because there were actually students who were being intimidated on that campus I'm gonna say this. I wouldn't say due to his rhetoric because that can't be proven, but that was their suspicion, that due to his rhetoric or the protesting that he was engaged in, Jewish students were being intimidated or harassed. If it goes through the amendment process, it can get amended. Now, it's really hard to get an amendment. Let's be real. It's damn near impossible, but it can happen. And I mean, let's be real. I don't know what's wrong with these liberals and progressives about, coming after our guns. Like, guys, leave our guns alone. And then it's all fun and games until, we one day get invaded and we're missing our guns. I'm looking to the corner. I don't have my trusty, no, let me not say that. But you guys get my point here. It's like the whole Second Amendment, I don't think you guys really understand what the Second Amendment is truly for. And you're kind of just running off, the gun violence, guys. Yeah, but here's the thing, though. If you guys want to fight this fascist government that you believe is going to take hold, you're going to need guns, my friend. You're going to need guns. And if you take them away, you're just going to be bitching with no way of kind of like standing on 10 or standing on business or, well, enforcing your will. Because what? You left it all for the police, the government, and if they're controlled by a fascist government, then what? Oh, you got rid of all the guns. What could we do? Oh, what? Protest? You think that's going to work? Like, it's not, but I see you guys like to go out there and look like a bunch of idiots. So I'm just telling you right now, the Second Amendment, you guys will literally be leading us into the very dark reality that you guys are fear-mongering on, which would be fascism or a dictator. This is probably the most childish argument ever when she said, oh, the freedom of speech argument. Just because Trump kicked the Associated Press out, and this is what the problem that Dems have. Like, you guys have a hard time understanding this. Freedom of speech does not mean you are freedom of consequence from your words. Doesn't mean it's illegal for somebody to slap your ass in the mouth over what you said. It's illegal for me to arrest you or try to get you arrested for what you said. That's unconstitutional. That's something I can't do. But to slap the heck out of you, or let's say in more reasonable terms right now, kick you out the chat, that's not violating your freedom of speech. Me violating your freedom of speech would be trying to get you arrested for saying something crazy in the chat. That's violating freedom of speech. So you guys get confused with the freedom of, well, you have freedom of speech from persecution, not consequences. Get that straight. And I think you guys understand that in real life. Trust me, or you gotta be walking out here with two black eyes every day. To his one point there where he's talking about, oh, children getting deported. No, children got sent with her mother. Her mother wasn't illegal. She got deported and took her child with her. That's not deporting U.S. citizens. That's a mother taking a U.S. citizen with her. Yes, their kids happen to be U.S. citizens. They was born in the USA, but the mom wasn't illegal and she decided to take her kids with her. Ain't our problem.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Straight Arrow News helps you quickly find trusted information you need to understand the news, allowing you to dive deep into the topics that matter to you and the world around you. Their work is trying to break the bias bubble, helping you understand how every side is so and trust. By clicking news episode,
Good for America.
Whoa. What type of claim did he just make?
My next claim is that immigrants overall are good for America.
I mean, that's such a bad, bro. What are with these bad faith claims? Okay. Or look, do you mean illegals or legal immigrants? Those are two different groups and they have two different effects on America. And we're not going to sit here and act like they have the same freaking effect. They don't. One affects lower class Americans and one affects middle class, lower class, and the other one affects higher class to the upper class. So, yeah, they have two different effects on two different classes of Americans. So you do need to be more specific. How can you be against poverty wages when you're okay with letting people in to work poverty wages? Make it make sense? Like what? Like, oh yeah, I want to raise it, but I'm also all for letting people in who's going to work below it. Like, bro, what? But all right, though, let's get into this one video here. I got to bring back the gumballs, pretty much. Immigration and gumballs. Let's get right into this beautiful demonstration on why immigration just does not work. I mean, it makes you feel good inside, but it just don't work. It's damn near like socialism.
Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? We'll start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people, desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia.
But said China is such a prosperous country. Yeah, I know, but 480 million people making less than $2 a day. But it's such a prosperous country, Set. Okay.
There's a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world, 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference.
And guys, if you don't understand the conversion table right now, 1 gumball equals 1 million people. So that glass that he's holding is America. The gumballs that he's dropping in equals 1 million people. As you see, within limited space.
Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we?
Nope.
These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And
trying to tackle a problem we could never really solve. You know, the corporate elites are telling us, like you said, the corporate elites are telling you that if you bring in 1 million people, hey, from whatever country, we'll just pay them low wages and we'll make y'all feel good about it. Remember, as he says, the corporate elites, because who else would push this? Who else would push hell of immigration, hell of immigrants or people in here who they could pay for lower wages or lower than the minimum wage? Who would sponsor that? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's easy to figure out. The problem is, Dems, why are you sponsoring it?
We have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society.
Yeah, let's go back. Regardless of the effect on our unemployed and our working poor. I mean, y'all don't care, though. Y'all just don't care. Y'all just for the feel good of immigration.
That we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double
no, we cannot.
Our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting.
Totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures. I mean, is he wrong? No, he's not wrong. So if everybody want to sit here and say, oh, you know, immigrants is a net positive, legal and illegal, it's a net negative. I mean, we're more okay with the legal side, of course, morally speaking, but logically speaking, it's a stupid idea.
Social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change to improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population.
Damn.
And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another 1 million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations.
Damn.
We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries, not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world.
Yep.
They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
Man, I mean, shoot, any disagreements? I mean, bro made a pretty compelling point. But all right, let's get right back. Well, crap. All right, guys. Yeah, we went a bit over time. We're going to have to end it on that note. All right, guys. Make sure you guys double tap the screen, like, and subscribe to the channel. I will be back tomorrow. Appreciate the support, guys. This is Set with Set Media. Peace out. And you guys have a blessed guys. Today, modern AI is quite advanced, except two problems. It is censored and it takes your information. Well, it's hard to find a tech company that don't. But let me introduce you to one. Shout out to my sponsor, Venice AI, which allows you to protect your information and avoid censorship. Now ask yourself, why should a team of programmers at these leading AI apps be the ones to decide what is okay for you to ask and think? Also, would you be comfortable if the presidential administration could govern what AI tells you? Man, I know I wouldn't. But also, while you think about that, did you know that? Let me tell you this, it's gonna be crazy, but ChatGPT has a former director of the NSA sitting on their board right now, guys. And shout out to that man, Edward Snowden. He called this a willful, calculated betrayal of the rights of every person on Earth. And we all know how Alexa is. Alexa listens to us and recommends products based on our conversations. I mean, talk about a violation of privacy. But guys, these are just a few reasons I decided to team up with Venice AI and get you a better options or solutions to your AI needs. Now, guys, you can go ahead and check these guys out with my promo code. So shout out to Venice AI. Now, if you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or government, you can get 20% off a pro plan using my link, Venice AI SET, and use the code SET. Man, so shout out, guys. So make sure you guys use the code. Put it up one more time for you guys right there. Once again, guys, if you guys want to go ahead and have unleashed AI, uncensored AI, go ahead and tap in with my guys at Venice AI, guys. Hey, this is SET and appreciate the support. And shout out to the sponsor.